Welcome to the Mashpee Conservation Commission hearing for Thursday, October 9th, 2025. The meeting's being held in the Coit Meeting Room, Mashpee Town Hall, 16 Great Neck Road North. Broadcast live on local cable channels 8 and 1072. Streamed live on Town and Mashpee website. And this is a hybrid remote meeting with the Zoom ID noted on the agenda. Okay, for first item, if you join me for a Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Is there any public comment not associated to any agenda item? Okay, seeing none. Gonna skip over the on the pre and post here, and just skip over the minutes. Under discussion, first item will be a presentation on salt marsh restoration from Webner. So we have anybody for there? Okay. Yeah. Please come up and state your name. And
I do have a couple of slides, but I could use those too. I have more.
I'll take them.
Okay.
No, I can pop it all in.
Thanks. It's Reynolds. It'll be the most recent one.
Alrighty.
I'll go super fast.
Huh?
okay. So if you want to go to the mic.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, hi, I'm Megan Tyrell. I'm the research coordinator at the Wacoit Bay Reserve, and thanks for letting me come in and start here. If you just want to go to the next one, that's great, thanks. I just wanted to start with a little bit about reminding people that salt marshes, every salt marsh on the east coast of the United States has been hydrologically altered and farmed, and this is something that I've learned from some training that's been available through the state in the past couple of years. So you can see in this image that there's a lot of hydrological alterations, a lot of berm and flooding and water control that happened historically. Okay, next one, thanks. And so a number of years ago in December 2023, we dug some runnels in one of the marshes called Doghead Marsh off of Sage Lot Pond. On most of it's on Mashpee town land, and this is what some of those runnels look like. The images on the right are showing just the progression, not the runnels that we dug, but of a recovery of an open water area on a salt marsh to revegetating, which is our desired condition, through the years at a similar site in Buzzards Bay. And at the Wacoit Bay Reserve, we do a lot of salt marsh monitoring, and this just gives you an overview of some of the intensity of monitoring that we do to see how vegetation changes with sea level rise, and we also monitor the sediment surface. We are seeing a lot of increasing pooling on the salt marshes, so conversion of vegetated to unvegetated because it's flooded too often. And this is an image from the Doghead Marsh where we did the runneling in 2023. And you can see with just the amount of red that's in the slide that there's been a whole lot of conversion of formerly pooled areas that have expanded and a lot of areas that should be vegetated that are now open water. This is one of the pools that we runneled at the Doghead Marsh, and you can see on the left how much water is standing in the pool, and on the right at low tide that there's a lot more exposed sediment at low tide. Some of the things that we're looking for with the runneling is a drop in water level. So this is showing the average water levels before we runneled, and then if you advance one more. You can see that after we did the runneling, that the average water levels dropped significantly in one of the pools. This is just representative data. The runnels also increased vegetation cover. This is just year one results that we have. So we monitored, of course, vegetation cover at the edge of the pool before we did the work, and after we did the work in areas that we manipulated and areas that we did not manipulate. And you can see that just even after 1 year, we had about a 13% increase in vegetation. And so what we're finding is that at least with this small scale project that we initiated, and I presented here a number of years ago on that we're seeing pretty good early results. I'm sorry that I don't have the vegetation monitoring results from this past summer yet, but You can see that runnels seem to be doing pretty well as part of our restoration toolbox and thinking about how to conserve all of that salt marsh vegetation that's so valuable for, from being converted to open water. And so this is our proposal for Sage Lot Pond. This is an overview of where we are hoping to do the runneling work. The blue turquoise lines are where we are hoping to do the runneling, and the pink dots are where we will take the peat and deposit it so that it becomes a little microhabitat island. And in one of these next slides, I have a side view of what the runnels and the microhabitat islands look like. But it's not this one. So we're both proposing to work both in Sage Lot Pond and in Jehu Pond, related planning efforts, but it's okay. Everybody knows where Jehu Pond is. Excuse me, related planning efforts, but like the two projects could be completely decoupled. Jehu is complicated because there are some berms that we would like to breach, and it's mostly owned by the Fish and Wildlife Service as part of the refuge. So this is just an overview of some of the areas where we would like to, and some of the restoration that we'd like to do in Jehu, but I have another slide that's a little lighter where you can see the locations of where the work would be. So the Mashpee-owned parcel in Jehu is up in the upper right, I'm sorry, just kind of center top. And there's some berms that we had proposed to breach there. At the time that we prepared these maps, we went out this summer to put in some vegetation monitoring plots and actually think that a lot of the berm breaching that we're proposing in that upper box is not necessary. There's some really beautiful marsh behind that long berm. So we're thinking of potentially breaching it only once or twice or leaving it mostly alone, because for some reason, when we visited the first time, it looked terrible, and now it looks okay. And we don't want to touch anything. We don't want to mess anything up. So thank you. So this is just a little bit more detail on what we have proposed to do. All of the permits are on hold right now because of the process that we need to go through as the state entity. And some of the runnels that we have at the very bottom of the right-hand box, that area of marsh is so collapsed and doesn't look good at all. We don't think there's any feasible way that we could runnel that. So some of them we're just going to drop out of the design, because there's no reason to excavate peat when there's only little islands left. It looks terrible out there in some locations. So I think there's just a cross-section of what a runnel looks like in the microhabitat island. We just excavate the peat, put it in a pile, and hope that that little high area could become available for salt marsh sparrows to nest on. And the only other thing that I wanted to bring up is that, especially in the Doghead Marsh, we're seeing very poor salt marsh accretion, and the whole site is very low, and a lot of conversion of vegetated marsh to open water. But there is some migration potential in the Doghead Marsh, and that's where Mashpee has its biggest parcel. And if you can just go one more. There is a tidal restriction, a culvert that passes under McGregor Road, which is state-owned land. But there's a lot of culvert remediation opportunities for municipalities. And so I just wanted to bring up, if there's a partnership for us to think about that in the future, that'd be great. Because I think if we can get more flushing in and out of Mashpee, in and out of Doghead, it might be beneficial for this marsh. So I think that's it.
Okay, great, thanks. So what, so is your next step is to file a notice of intent for this project?
I think so. So we're getting, when we did it previously, we partnered with Cape Cod Mosquito Control. And so that process is totally different. And we are still proposing to do all of the work with Cape Cod Mosquito Control. But since we've gone through the state process, they are recommending that we investigate an ecological restoration avenue, and then it would be a notice of intent. But that's still a little bit up in the air because the particular subcategories on the ecological restoration avenue don't seem totally like a great fit for this, because they're like talking about tidal restriction removal, and it's like, we're not talking about that in this project. We're talking about alleviating impounded water that's naturally there. Well, not naturally, but like due to historic alterations. So, but we're working on it, and we're just trying to move through the process. And I hope to let you all know as soon as we know what the recommendation is from DCR, from the Department of Conservation and Recreation.
Okay,
So,
great, thank you.
sure.
Any questions from commissioners?
I have a couple, Steve.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, quick, if that's okay. Hi, Megan.
Hi,
It's nice to see you.
it's good to see you.
Nice to see you. That was a really awesome presentation. That sounds like a wonderful project. I guess my first question is just to confirm that Doghead is bordering all open space and fish and wildlife land and conservation land, or are we actually looking at like a developed edge?
Yeah, no.
When we're talking about the migration, I guess
Oh.
my line of questioning would be any impacts to the floodplain hydrology and then the migration of that marshland inward.
So,
And what we might need to know.
yeah, so Doghead is all state or town owned. Jehu is the one that has the federal ownership, most of it's federal. And there is, so when we've had marsh restoration experts come out with us from Save the Bay, Wenley Ferguson is her name, she kind of invented this technique for the East Coast. She was one that recommended that like we move a trail that we have in Doghead in consideration for marsh migration, and Webner is working on that. There will be eventually, at some point, the road will be a little bit of an issue, but there are many, many places where that's an issue, right? So there's nothing like uniquely tragic about it. It's just that because Doghead is doing so poorly, has these huge pools and is doing so poorly compared to the rest of the marshes, that I feel like maybe next step or other things we should keep in mind are removal of that culvert, because it's definitely way undersized,
Right.
sediment deposition, those sorts of things, but that's down the line.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Dan, you, Drew, have anything?
I don't have anything. So I know that as you mentioned, a trail will be relocated. That's going to be applying to us as well. So once this comes forward, we'll definitely have some more questions then.
Okay, cool. I think my colleague Ryan's going to be leading that one, but
And
yeah.
Drew's on.
Okay, great.
I did have a question. Hi, Megan.
Hi.
I was just curious. I know you've done some thin layer placement previously in some of these areas, and I was just wondering what the success of that approach was. Is that still going on? Is that going to be in conjunction with runnels? Just wanted to get some more information on that if it's available.
I wish. So we did experimental scale thin layer placement on the north side of Sage Lot Pond, and it worked really well for revegetation. But also, we had revegetation in areas where we did not do any manipulation, and we're pretty sure that's due to being in the lowest phase of the metonic cycle, the 18.6-year cycle, where the tides are slightly lower than average and higher than average. So we kind of just got lucky on our timing. We would love to explore further, beneficial reuse of especially very sandy dredge material on some of the marshes, and am aware that the Great River and Little River project is going on, and I've had some conversation with some of you about that. But these are all like really big things to tackle. But I definitely don't want us to be characterized as like runnels is the only tool in our toolbox. It'd be great to get to that point where we could do some sediment augmentation. But right now we're just kind of like in this runnel phase with an eye towards the future of doing more
Sure.
and hoping it works. Oh,
Yeah, absolutely.
and you know what? I'm sorry. I forgot to mention, Dan, and there's a couple of slides, and maybe everybody's heard of it, but there's a crab that eats a burrowing crab that eats the above ground vegetation. It's actually in the end of my slides too. Just wanted to show you some of the impacts of that crab. Sesarma reticulatum is its name. I'm so sorry. I forgot about it. I just wanted to show you a couple of our plots and how they've changed over time. Like 22 or 23, I think both of those are about the crabs. Okay, so 22 is, you can see how the creek banks are denuded. And there's been a lot of loss and pinnacling of the peat. You know, it should be that intact platform. That is due to this purple marsh crab. And well-documented destroying marshes causes salt marsh dieback. In some places, they have seen an increase in runneling with this crab occurring because you create mini ditches and they love that creek bank habitat. So they come in and they really destroy it. So this is something that we really have to watch for. It first showed up, I first saw evidence of this in 2023. In this picture was the first time that I saw it, but I know what the crab looks like. I know that it's relatively new to our marshes because I've worked on it previously. And if you can go to the next slide, you can just see some of the effects that we're seeing in our plots, in our permanent monitoring plots, converting from vegetated to unvegetated in the right column. So it's a real big issue that we're focused on and very aware of. Anytime you dig into the peat, you might be favoring the conditions for this crab.
These are the little crabs that are in the thousands.
Not fiddlers are more the ones that
They're
are
not, okay.
that are a wave and are kind of disgusting. Yeah, these are also burrowers, but they eat both the above ground grass and the roots.
Oh.
And they're a little bit bigger, and they kind of come in, cause massive peat loss, and then they self-limit because there's not enough peat for them to support their burrows. So
Understood.
And they're invasive, or we?
it's debated.
Okay.
They're thought to be native. There's probably some climate facilitated range expansion, and certainly there has been experimental evidence that shows that they, because of a loss of predators like fish and birds, that they are probably alleviated from some predation pressure as well. So we're really excited when we see green herons in the marsh because they're kind of crab specialists.
Good. All set? Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
All right,
Thank
have a
you.
good evening.
Thank you.
Okay.
Not a problem. Thank you.
All right, so we'll jump into the hearings. First one is an RDA for 24 Wheelhouse Lane. Joseph Campanelli, proposed reduction of building footprint by changing the shape of bay window with diamond piers. Representative is Paul Fiore. Anybody? Okay, if you want to come up and present your project.
Boy, it's a lot less interesting. All we're looking to do is square out a bay window as part of a kitchen remodeling, and with that, elimination of an outdoor existing deck. So a net reduction on the intrusion of the property line.
Okay, so just removing that angled portion of the deck and just build out a new one-story addition?
Essentially, as the bay window goes out, squaring it for essentially a countertop for the kitchen. And then with that, instead of going out and outside, we eliminate that whole decking. So a net reduction on the footprint, but increasing the interior component and eliminating the exterior.
Okay. And I noticed on the notes that you're using diamond piers, so minimal
Yes.
excavation.
Yeah, our goal is to have minimal impact.
Okay, great. Thanks. Okay, any questions from commissioners?
I don't have anything on this.
Okay, Shauna,
No, this looked like a good project.
Sandy?
Thanks.
Looks good to me.
Okay, Rich?
Negative.
Okay, Dan, Drew? Oh, sorry, yeah, Sarah. Sorry, Sarah.
Hey, Steve, sorry, I'm not sitting at your right hand today.
Sorry.
But thank you. I did just want to confirm, so the plan that was submitted, dated back in 2020, it had a proposed walkway over Salt Marsh. I just want to confirm, we're only looking at, the RDA for this application is just that bay window, as you mentioned, eliminating that deck?
That's all. Correct.
Okay, and the scope of the disturbance to the resource area is what we've discussed? The diamond piers, there's nothing else?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sorry, Sarah.
Yeah, no comments from me, Steve. It's a pretty straightforward project.
Okay, great.
No, this is straightforward. This will give a further setback from the salt marsh to the edge of existing structure, as well as I would imagine it's going to be far less supports or sonotubes in the ground once all is said and done.
Correct.
So that's a benefit, so I have no concerns.
Okay, great. Anybody in the audience? No, seeing none. Okay, do we have a motion for 24 Wheelhouse Lane?
Make a motion for a negative determination at 24 Wheelhouse Lane.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion made, seconded. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll go to vote. Sarah?
Yes.
Okay, Shauna?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Great, thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, next item is RDA for 34 Cranberry Lane, Bonnie Gabori. Proposed removal of 4 sick or dead beech trees and planting of 8 seedlings. So, okay, please come up. Okay, please state your name and just describe your project.
Yeah, my name is Bonnie Gabry. I live on 34 Cranberry Lane. Dan came out a couple weeks ago and confirmed that we have some diseased beech trees that are less than 100 feet towards the water, and we have a dock. So we'd like to have permission to be able to remove them and then put in, is it called saplings? I can't remember. 8 little trees. Yeah, to replace that.
Okay.
So I can specify here, this tree is one of them. The picture's kind of rough. The canopy on it's about maybe 10% if it's lucky. So this is one, and then over on the side, I'm just gonna pull up the plan. The other 2 are on here. On the side there, so that was 4 total. The biggest thing I always say with this, because it is an inland bank, is no stump grinding.
Right.
At all, because the roots are still gonna be in the ground even if the tree's not alive, and it's gonna give time for stabilization while the other trees root up. So that's the one thing with me, but this is unfortunately notorious. Santua Pond has been hit one of the hardest from the beech tree disease, and especially in this area. So that's why this application is before you tonight.
Okay, great. Okay, go to commissioners, any questions?
No, pretty straightforward.
Okay, Shauna?
What species of saplings are going back in?
Well, Dan gave me a list of them and we reviewed it. I don't remember the specific one, but we both agreed that it would be a good variety. Do you remember?
Yes, I was recommending having at least 2 maples because they're going to be fast growing and
right.
it's near the water, so they're going to thrive quite well. As well as either 2 hardwoods, such as 2 oaks, or perhaps even just like 2 cedars. In
Okay.
this location of town, I would recommend for probably like a black oak or a white oak. So
Okay.
2 maples and 2 oaks were the essential.
Yep.
Okay. Sandy?
All set.
Rich?
No questions.
Sarah?
Yeah, I have just a couple questions. Hi, Bonnie, good evening.
Hi.
So the plot plan in here, I'm so sorry, in my original notes, I had missed it, but I do see that there are some little X's here where the trees are gonna be removed, but what I didn't see on the plan was the location of the saplings. Are they also gonna be pond side, or are they gonna be further back on the property?
They would be in similar proximity to where the trees
Okay.
are being taken down.
Okay, yeah, fantastic. And I think the only thing that I had noted just is, that this is about 50 or so feet from priority wildlife habitat. It's on the water. Leaving the stumps for wildlife is also a common practice. So cutting the trees, even just leaving the stumps up to breast height, which is about 4.5 feet, is a common practice just for, any wildlife that would be relying on those snags. If we weren't intervening. So I would just echo what Dan says, but otherwise it sounds pretty straightforward.
Great,
So,
thank you.
That's kind of high, 4 feet. Lou?
It could be at the discretion of the commission. Leaving it 4 feet, you are going to have rot in that tree, as well as you're going to have some falling back of the tree over time, not just the bark. So it'd be at the discretion of the commission. When it comes down to no stump grinding on coastal or inland banks, I always say at least 6 to 10 inches for a stump. As I say, it gives a nice spot to put a planting little container with flowers, quite frankly, where the other trees grow. So, but that's where we usually stand, but commission discretion at that point.
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
What's that?
Drew, anything? You?
No, I would agree with Dan's comments regarding the stumps. Just for clarification, Santua Pond is not an active rare species habitat.
Okay, Great.
the property borders came to a bond.
Great, thank you. All right, anybody in the audience? No? Okay.
All right.
Do we have a motion for 34 Cranberry Lane?
Make a motion for a negative determination at 34 Cranberry Lane, and on the advice of staff, stumps be cut 6 to 10 inches above grade.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made second. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, go roll call vote. Shauna?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Great,
All right,
thank
very
you.
good.
set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, next one is RDA for 18 Starboard Lane, Shallow Shores LLC, proposed septic system upgrade, representatives Cape and Islands Engineering. Now, I do have a question on this, because I saw it was septic system upgrade.
I don't know why.
18 Starboard Lane is my client. I designed the deck and some other work on the house, but when I saw this as septic system, but I see this, the deck is included in this.
Yes, the deck is included. The deck and the mitigation are the only things in wetlands jurisdiction. The septic tank is not.
Okay, so since
yeah.
I'm designing the deck, I should probably recuse myself from this?
I would recommend it, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah, since she is the vice chair, to run this hearing. So I'm going to recuse myself.
We will get you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cook. I'd like to open the hearing for an RDA application at 18 Starboard Lane, Representative Shallow Shores LLC and Cape and Islands Engineering.
Good evening, Mark Dibb with Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant for 18 Starboard Lane. We filed an RDA at this existing property. It's almost an 8,000 square foot lot with an existing dwelling on it. There's basically 3 items that are being worked on within the buffer. In this site is situated between Starboard Lane and Wading Place, and off to the east is the water, and the associated coastal bank is the most inland resource area, which creates the 75-foot buffer you see and the 150-foot buffer. There also is a small piece of flood zone on the northerly side, northeasterly side of the property. The 3 things within jurisdiction that are being worked on is the existing deck which is on the east side of the house, is just being repaired. New sauna tubes underneath. The decking probably be pulled off and replaced. It's just being repaired, rebuilt right in the same exact location. An area of the deck in back that wraps around is just going to be converted into an enclosed porch, again on the same footprint. And all that work is even outside the flood zone. The last thing we're doing is just some small buffer zone restoration. It's basically some landscaping to create a buffer, but it will be native shrubs and mitigation style work for that green area. And just a note, there is some work outside of jurisdiction. We are upgrading the septic system on the site. We'll include an IA septic system, new leach field instead of the existing leaching pit, as well as the driveways getting reconfigured slightly. But again, that's outside of jurisdiction. So, I mean, we feel there's basically no impact to the buffer zone, as we're working in the same footprint that's already there, as well as enhancing a little bit in the flood zone with that vegetation. There's no regrading or additional work, actually no proposed work in the flood zone other than that restoration. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mark. We'll take it to commissioner questions. You're just going to have to jump in, or maybe Dan, if you could call on folks.
Absolutely. Shauna, can we start with you?
Yeah, so just for clarification, the septic system is totally off the
Yep.
table for
The
us.
septic
Okay.
system's out of the buffer and out of the flood zone, yes.
Okay. Area's so confusing, what's in and out of the flood zone and Pompanesett, so, no, I don't have any questions then.
Sandy?
I'm good.
Rich?
No, those are just answered, so I'm good.
And back to you, Sarah.
Okay, fantastic. I did just want to clarify, and I do understand and agree that the work is happening within the buffer zone, but in looking at 310 CMR, there's a passage here that talks about RDAs, and I just wanted to read that for the benefit of the commission and the applicant to make sure that we're engaging in our due diligence. Since the department has determined, the department referring to the Department of Environmental Protection has determined that activities within 100 feet of those areas specified in 310 CMR 10.21A, so these are jurisdictional resource areas including land subject to coastal storm flow, are sufficiently likely to alter said areas that pre-construction review may be necessary. Therefore, a request for determination of applicability must be filed for some activities within the buffer zone. The issuing authority, that would be this commission, shall then make a determination as to whether the activity so proposed will alter an area subject to protection under MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, and if so, shall require the filing of a notice of intent for said activities. The issuing authority shall not require the filing of a notice of intent if it determines that the activity proposed within the buffer zone will not alter an area subject to protection under MGL Chapter 131, Section 40. And I think when I was looking at the application, I did just want to point out that we are looking at adding roof area, correct, and impervious surfaces within the 75-foot buffer to a coastal bank within feet of the floodplain, so we're certainly within the buffer zone. So these are all jurisdictional resource areas. So I would like to open up for a little bit more deliberation and hear from the agents as to what they would recommend we do in interpreting our call from the Wetlands Protection Act here to just ensure that we're protecting these resource areas from any construction impacts. So, Dan, can I pass that over to you?
Yeah, if I may, before we do that, the representative had something he wanted to say, if that's okay.
Yeah, I'd like to say two quick things. The 75-foot buffer is completely off the site, and you'll see there's an addition, there's a dimension, 115 feet to the existing coastal bank to the deck that's being reworked. So as far as DEP Wetlands Protection Act, the buffer is 100 foot, so we're not doing any work in the 100-foot buffer. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
And then I'm going to defer to Drew on this, because when it comes to that, my only comment when it comes to RDAs and NOIs, it is at the discretion of the commission. So that's why I'm going to defer to Drew for the rest.
Yeah, so I agree, Mark, what Mark said. It is outside the 100. The buffer zone under the State Act 310 CMR is 100 feet, not 150. Additionally, as you can see on the plan, anyone who went to the site, this work area is completely and 100% previously altered. There's no alteration of any native vegetation. In fact, they're adding native vegetation in the flood zone. As far as impervious surface and roof runoff, it's simple enough to tie that into dry wells or of some other form of roof runoff capture. It's a very small footprint, easily handled by some mechanism of roof runoff capture. So I think this is appropriate for an RDA.
Okay, noted, thank you. And I just wanted to make a correction, my apologies. It was the buffer to the floodplain. I am looking at the plan, and I've had sick kids this week, so I haven't been able to get out for site visits, but thank you for that. Any members of the public with any comments?
No one here, and there's no one online with a comment, no.
Thank you for the assist, Dan.
No problem.
Okay, hearing none, would anybody like to make a motion for 18 Starboard Lane?
Make a motion for a negative determination, 18 Starboard Lane.
Second.
Okay,
Second.
okay, motion made and seconded. We'll do a roll call vote.
Sarah, wait, I just have
Yes.
a question, sorry.
Sure.
So how do we condition the dry wells?
You can condition an RDA. As part of our regulations, and our bylaw,
Okay.
it doesn't say no, it doesn't discourage it, it just says, basically, it's a case by case. But with conditions of an RDA, you can absolutely do that,
So
we
we've-
can add it.
So we're putting this forward as a negative determination with the conditions that dry wells go in for the runoff on the enclosed porch.
Yeah, so, John, if you didn't want to use the language that you're amending the motion to
Oh.
include.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We'd have to amend the motion.
Okay, so we need to amend the
So we'll
mo-
amend the motion to include that, and
Okay.
then there'll be a vote on the amendment,
Okay.
and then we'll go back to the motion itself.
Thank you.
Yes. So I think if we want to have a vote on the amendment to add dry wells,
So I have tell me what I should be saying. I should be
I guess the question I have is, how many dry wells? You're looking at one on the lower part, or
two, yeah.
just one?
I mean, it's 10 by 14.
Yeah,
that
one's
dry
fine.
well
150,
handle
okay.
it,
Yeah, so yeah, just amend it to that, then we can have the vote.
I make a motion to amend the conditions, this motion to, I'm sorry, to be conditioned to include one dry well.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Motion made, do we have a second?
Second.
Wonderful. Motion made and seconded. We are going to vote to amend the motion for the RDA to condition it to add one dry well. Roll call vote. Rich?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Shawna?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Okay, so the motion on the table now is for a negative determination for an RDA with the condition that one dry well be added to capture any additional runoff from the additional roof area. We'll take a roll call vote. Rich?
Yes.
Okay, Sandy?
Yes.
Shawna?
Yes.
Okay, and I vote no, but the motion passes.
Right. So you were all set, thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. Someone want to grab Steve, please?
Yep.
Thank you. $0.35 to it.
All right, thanks, Sarah. Okay, next item, RDA, 35 Santuit Lane, Nelson Jenkins. Proposed to obtain the existing dock registered in the town of Mashpee.
Good evening.
So,
Is it this one?
Either
Good evening.
one.
My name is Nelson Jenkins. I am the president of the Genset Corporation and the current owner of 35 Santuit Lane in Mashpee. I would like to get the existing dock on the property registered with the town. So if I need to replace any of the deck boards going forward, I can do so. I also do realize that the existing drawing shows a float, and that if I was to add that float, or wanted to add that float, I would have to file an notice of intent to do so before doing so. That's really about it. It's just an existing dock with the property that's there. No moving of the pylons or anything else.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, go to commissioners, any questions? Neil?
So there's currently no float on the stock at all?
There is not.
That's all I have.
Okay, Shauna?
No, I have no questions. It's very modest stock right now.
Sandy?
No questions.
Rich?
No questions.
Sarah?
No questions.
Okay, I don't have any questions. Dan? Drew?
Nope, just get this. This dock has a Chapter 91, I think from the mid-90s, I think it was, and this just, the homeowner at the time never went through with permitting it through the town, so they had it installed. It is there. It has a Chapter 91. This will get it on the record with the town, and then as the gentleman said, anything beyond that, you'll have to file and come back. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's very straightforward.
Okay, any
I
comment?
do have a question. Dan, you said it has an existing Chapter 91 license, but it doesn't have a local permit?
Correct.
Okay, usually that's the reverse order of how it should be. So what I would say to the applicant is check with Chapter 91 on the status of your Chapter 91 license. Because Chapter 91 typically, or always, requires a local permit before they issue their permit. Unless this dock is so old, it predates the Wetlands Protection Act, which is 1978. So I would just recommend that the applicant contact Chapter 91, find out the status of that license, and make sure it's updated appropriately if need be.
Thank you, I will.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody in the audience? Okay, seeing none. Any further discussion from commissioners? All right, seeing none. Have a motion for 35 Santuit Lane?
Make a motion for a negative determination at 35 Santuit Lane. Does that need to be conditioned to? talk, okay, so that's it.
No, they can just go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Okay, great. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, roll call vote. Shauna?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Great, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Make sure to cover your garden.
Pardon?
Make sure to cover your garden.
Yeah, I hear frost tonight.
I hear you work all in the garden.
Okay.
It's gonna love it.
Okay, next item, notice of intent filing for 55 Redwood Circle, Edward and Rudite Pilpel, proposed addition to existing dwelling, remove septic system and replace with Title V IA system, remove and rebuild retaining wall and mitigation plantings, represented as BSS Design. This was continued from August 7th and September 4th, and DEP number is 433352. Good evening.
All right, good evening. Thank you. My name is Tom Bunker, registered land surveyor with BSS Design. This project has been continued, as Chair Cook said, a couple of times, and both times, part of the reason was because we hadn't gotten the letter back from regarding the natural heritage program, and so not long after the second continuance, we got this letter back on September 9th. It was dated September 9th, where they say, well, as currently proposed, this project will not adversely affect the actual resource area habitat of state protected rare wildlife species. It's under the Wetlands Protection Act and under the Mass Endangered Act. They say, based on a review, the division has determined that this project, as currently proposed, appears to be exempt from MESA review pursuant to 321 CMR 10.14. So we got that part. And also after the last continuance, we said there was a request to add more mitigation. So we have done that. 300 square feet down around the edge of the, not on that, that's not the
No, this-
updated one.
They have the landscape plan in front of them. I just noticed I don't have it on the slide.
Okay.
So apologies on my end.
Yeah, they have, our site plan too has the green going around the edge of the lawn, up by the edge of the pond, and it's on the landscape plan also by Crawford Land Management. Andy is online, waiting in the wings to answer any questions you have. So we added 300 square feet of mitigation. You know, that's, and got this letter back. That's basically the change, and that's the changes to the plan. I added another letter regarding waivers and regulatory language in here. So the in the regulatory language, the commission may grant a waiver when portions of the buffer zone between the proposed project and adjacent resource areas are previously altered, which they are. I think we've demonstrated that, well, basically every part of the lot that we're proposing a change on has been altered. Basically no native, other than the trees, the 3 beech trees that have the disease that we're proposing to take down, but otherwise, I think nothing else native. So it's previously altered. The next part is the commission may grant a waiver from the regulations only upon a finding by the commission that a project will improve the natural capacity of a resource area to protect the wetland values identified in the section 1 of the bylaw, using the best available technologies, and there will be no adverse effect or any adverse effect on wetland values are minimized to the greatest extent feasible by carefully considered conditions. Now, we have proposed the required planting, mitigation planting, and then some. This additional 300 square feet is additional, although it is somewhat added because we're slightly over the 5,000 square feet, and Drew had suggested if we add more mitigation. So it's not only the mitigation that we're adding, but also the large area of other planting on the site, which is mainly shown, the area is shown on our plan, but on the planting plan by Crawford Land Management, they have more extensive planting with forbs, grasses, shrubs in there, which are pretty much all native. It's another, I know there's an area in here, but it's in another couple thousand square feet of planting that's being proposed. So I would suggest to you that the relatively small increase in area, particularly by the proposed addition and the area of the expansion of the deck, is outweighed by the extensive planting proposed, vegetating all of the area, so there should be no remaining bare area on the site, and the steeper slopes on the property also being reduced to reduce the runoff potential on the property. So those are our comments, the changes we made, and I'll take your questions now.
All right. Thanks, Tom. All right, go to commissioners. Neil?
Yeah, I don't have anything for you.
Okay. Shauna?
I'm good.
Okay. Sandy?
No, I'm good. I think you've answered our questions from previous hearings.
Okay. Rich?
No questions.
Okay. Sarah?
Yes, good evening. I mean, I think with the addition of the mitigation plantings with a buffer to the pond as well as the river, we're looking at reducing the lawn size and then hearing from the natural heritage folks that the project is exempt and is not going to negatively impact wildlife. I think all of my concerns have been addressed as well, and I do want to commend you on the changes in the aspect of the lawn, thinking about stormwater runoff. That's a really great modification. So no questions at this time.
Okay. Dan, Drew, do you guys have any things to add?
No additional comments. I think they've provided the information the commission had requested at the last hearing. So no other comments.
Okay. All set, Dan?
I'm all set. The only thing for me is with the large amount of mitigation that's going in, it'd be a 3-year mitigation and monitoring plan. That'd be my recommendation.
Sure, that's fine.
For a condition.
Okay. All right. Anybody in the audience? All right. Seeing none?
I got nothing.
Go for, make a motion for 55 Redwood Circle.
Make a motion to close an issue at 55 Redwood Circle with a submission of a 3-year mitigation and monitoring contract.
Okay, great. Do we have a second?
Second?
Okay, motion made second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, roll call vote. Shauna?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Great.
All right, thank
Thank
you
you,
very
Tom.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Next item is notice intent filing for 28 Wilson's Grove, Hayworth and Kathleen Neal II. Proposed raising of existing dwelling, construct and maintain a new single-family dwelling, IA septic system upgrade. Representatives BSS Design, Inc. Continued from August 7th, August 21st, September 4th, and DEP number 433354. Okay, good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Chair Cook, members of the commission. You may remember my name is Adam Brodsky. I'm a local environmental and land use lawyer, and I represent the Neal Family Trust. Hayworth Neal, the trustee, is with us this evening, as well as Stephanie Casper and Jeff Neal, his children, who are participating remotely. You know Tom Bunker. We were last before the Conservation Commission on September 5, and at that time the commission requested a peer review, and I understand that while the Conservation Commission issued a request for proposals, no firm has in fact submitted a proposal in response. So we need guidance from the commission as to how you want to move forward. In the interim, we did submit, or I should say Tom's firm submitted the requested Regulation 25 waiver on September 29th. So we're here this evening, and unfortunately, we need guidance from the commission as to how you want to proceed.
Okay, great, thank you. As the applicant's attorney mentioned, and Drew can chime in on this, that went to a few engineering firms and did not receive any replies for a peer review. That was what we requested last time, so.
Yeah, so we had sent it out to Coastal Engineering with Whole Group and Cape and Islands Engineering. Those were selected based on how much experience they have with raise and replace projects in the flood zone and in coastal areas in general. No response from Coastal or with Whole Group, and there was a response from Cape and Islands declining to accept the offer of a peer review. The rationale in that decline was that the criteria for the peer review, which is construction methodology and ensuring, that the methodology does not result in any impact to neighboring properties, as opposed to impacts to land subject to coastal storm flow, they had indicated that that would be something that the building department, would solicit, not the Conservation Commission.
Okay. Thanks, Drew. Okay, so we'll talk about that item first with commissioners. So start with Neil. Any questions on that issue first?
Do we need to read these in?
Yeah, I'm going to read those in.
After the?
Yeah, after we have this discussion first. Before we make any motions.
A concern about the driveway at 30 Wilson's Grove and that sort of thing. Is that addressed with any encroachment on that? Him being able to park in that area?
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that issue. I don't know if, Tom, if you're familiar with that issue?
Well, that was in a letter from a different
It was one of their
abutter.
butters letters, that his concern was being able to park in his driveway, if the house was any closer to, his property.
I think the house is not getting close
So
to
there was
the property line.
there was an original when we first got the permit here about concerns over that, and I believe that was addressed when they, I don't want to say relocated the house, but when they put the house on piles and reoriented that way. I believe that was addressed at that point. Yeah.
That's all I have.
Okay. Go to Sarah next.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, gentlemen. Hello again, Tom. I think in light of the fact that the three private engineering firms that were contacted have not responded to the request for proposals, I would encourage this commission and the applicant to revisit utilizing public resources. I would profoundly disagree with what was stated, I think, at the last hearing where we discussed this particular project, that the public resources are, in fact, as unbiased as we can, as their job is to protect the entire Commonwealth and all of the resource areas they're in, rather than the outcomes or interests of a single family or a resident. They are available for these types of peer reviews, and they are at no cost to the applicant. So it would be, this commissioner's opinion that we should revisit utilizing either the Barnstable County Extension Office or the Massachusetts Office of Coastal Zone Management, the regional one, to do a peer review on thinking about the hydrology and the way the construction protocol as presented and the project as presented would impact functioning of the floodplain for this property and for the neighboring ones as well. And I must apologize, I haven't seen either in the digital packet or the printed packet the waiver request that was referenced. So I haven't been able to review that, but I would like to see it. So that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Shauna?
I haven't got any questions at this time, Steve, thanks.
Okay. Sandy?
I tend to agree with Sarah. I think that we need to at least try and get a peer review from
A public response?
public, yeah.
Okay. Anything else on it? Okay, Rich?
Do the peer review, do they have an option to decline as well, or are they obligated to file a report? So if they do the same thing as like Woods Hole Group or something like that, do we end up back here again?
That could happen, I guess.
Chair Cook,
Maybe Drew.
At the,
Hold on.
So, I mean, the issue with the peer review, at least this first go around, I know there was some discussion at the last hearing on this, is that, well, number one, you're dealing with a setting that is 100% built out. There's no removal or alteration of native vegetation here. So if you're going to reach out to a coastal agency, the first thing that you're going to want to know is what are the impacts to the resource area. And from what I've heard thus far through the deliberations is that the impacts are centered on making sure that the construction methodology doesn't, unless I'm mistaken here, doesn't impact the neighboring properties. That's not going to fall under the expertise of a coastal geologist or any other sort of coastal expert. They're going to evaluate in a peer review if the peer review is predicated on impacts to land subject to coastal storm flow, not impacts to neighboring properties. So I think that needs to be clarified first and foremost amongst the commissioners. What is it you're looking to get out of this peer review? Is it impacts to the neighboring properties via construction methodology, peer reviewing that aspect of it? Or do you have concerns about this project as it relates to the performance standards for land subject to coastal storm flow? I would put that out there as that needs to be really solidified first, because we need that information, we need that consensus if we're going to reach out to more peer reviews. What is the substance of the peer review itself?
Okay.
Drew, I can respond to that from my vantage, and I do think that a lot of discussion has been talking about not just the construction methodology. I think that's been the focus of all of the abutter concerns, and I do think that this commission is trying to exercise due diligence in making sure that we're representing the community and paying attention to those concerns. But my concerns are with the final construction of the home and channelizing water in between the properties, and in particular the change in elevation that is going to exist now between this property and other properties, and how that is going to affect storm flow in the neighborhood. So we've heard a lot of things about the property, but I do think my understanding again of the peer review process from the public resources is that they take the application and they look at it and they provide an objective review from the vantage of impacts to the resource area. So our concerns, the applicant's concerns, are not part of that process. My understanding is they get the packet and they tell us what they think and they give us a technical report. So I don't think that they would tailor it to our concerns necessarily, but I do have concerns over the increase in the size of the home and how that's going to impact the water coming through. I mean, we're I think 3 parcels down from the water. You know, it's just highly likely that this is going to be something now and into the future we need to consider. And given the cumulative impact of this street and of this neighborhood, I do still think that it has been decided by the commission that peer review would be required for us to close and issue an order of conditions on this. So if we're not getting it from the independent consultants, these resources are available. It's an alternative, but it's not just the construction methodology from my vantage, but I'll yield to anybody else who wants to respond.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you, Sarah.
Could I speak to some of these issues, please?
Let me
Yes,
give you my concerns first, and then we can go back to you guys. Okay. So I know we talked at the last hearing, we mentioned that, I think you guys said that we're going to change it from a foundation with flood smart vents to pilings. Is that correct?
That was presented last time.
Right.
Yes.
So that's still it, because the letter still has foundation on it. Is this the letter from previous hearing before? This information, it mentions foundation with smart vents in here. So is this kind of outdated?
So are you referring to the original project narrative that was submitted with the notice of intent?
Yeah, is this the original project narrative?
That's the original one.
Okay.
Yeah,
all
but
right, so
the
this
plans
is-
have been
okay, so it's-
updated since then.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I know one of the concerns I had was with water channeling through, so now we're going to go on pilings. But one of my concerns is where we're 1.7 feet and 2.3 feet from the property lines is, you know, erosion control. Where's the erosion control going to go? What's the construction methodology? So going back to a couple of other projects that we previously approved at 23 Wilson's Grove and 25 Wilson Grove across the street. We had, which were small properties in width, but we approved a 4-foot separation from the building to the property line on the west side of 23 Wilson's Grove, and 25, we had 4 feet from the east side. So there's some separation there. So for construction, for water to flow through and everything. So going to pilings is definitely going to help, but I think I requested last time, can we shrink this building down to achieve 4 feet? And can we come to a compromise solution where we have, you know, a buffer on, at least on the west side where it's 2.3 feet? Can we get it to 4 feet, similar to the other projects that we approved?
So is that a question, Chair Cook?
Yes, that is a question.
I don't
yeah.
think that's a fair analogy because those properties were wider. There was much more room to deal with. In this case, we have a very small lot with a very small existing house. We're simply trying to maintain the footprint of that existing house. And again, I understand your concern regarding separation, but we're dealing with land subject to coastal storm flowage. We're elevating the building to allow water to flow beneath the building. And so there is going to be, this is a dramatic improvement over existing conditions. I don't think in an AE elevation 13 zone, you're going to have channelization, and I've explained this. And please remember, I'm not either a coastal geologist or an engineer. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've permitted hundreds of coastal projects, obviously in floodplains. My rudimentary understanding here is that it's not a velocity zone. It's not an AO zone where you have overwash with wave action. By the time this water will get to these properties, my understanding is the entire neighborhood, which is in this floodplain, is the water's going to elevate slowly. You're not dealing with active waves in this type of floodplain. Presently, you have existing non-conforming structures. So water moves around those structures presently. By elevating this house, we're actually allowing water to flow through. It can only result in a net improvement. So I think the suggesting that there's going to be scouring here, I don't think bears out. Again, I'll defer to Tom on that issue. That's not how this type of floodplain works. With respect to the peer review, I have a real serious problem with coastal zone management conducting a peer review. I don't think they actually do peer reviews. Coastal zone management, which I deal with on a routine basis, is a state policy agency. They make policies, they do studies, they provide recommendations. They were instrumental in drafting the draft state wetland regulations to create performance standards for land subject to coastal storm flowage. And I believe they do have a bias against development in floodplains. I think they would like to see retreat. And there's little recognition, in my personal opinion, of people's property rights, existing houses within floodplains, and the practicalities. Having said that, I don't believe that they do peer reviews, and I don't think it would be appropriate for asking them to do a peer review because they're writing the policies. It's like having the fox guard the hen house here. It's not the right analogy, but it's the wrong agency. I can't speak to the Barnstable entity, but again, my thought was that I understand the neighbor is concerned with potential damage from construction. We've got to do everything in our power to ensure that. And if the contractor makes a mistake and causes damage to the neighbor's property, that's a private property issue. The neighbor has recourse against the contractor for any damage. That's a private property issue. It is not a wetlands issue because that activity isn't an alteration of a wetland resource area that's subject to your jurisdiction. You clearly have jurisdiction over the project because it's in the floodplain, but by virtue of elevating this property, making it compliant with the state building code and FEMA requirements, I mean, we're dramatically improving the functioning of this resource area. So again, those are my 2 cents. with respect to peer review, particularly by Massachusetts Coastal Zone Management. I can't speak to your local county organization.
Okay. Okay, so the plan can be revised to show pilings versus foundation on this plan?
It
and
already
on-
has, sir.
Okay, this plan shows a concrete foundation.
That's an
as well.
old plan.
Old plan, okay, so you guys did not submit any revised
Plan
plans?
Revised,
Yes, sir, we did.
August 25th is the last revision.
Okay,
Yeah, Steve, last time this was before you, it showed a plan with piles on it.
okay. This one just has foundation on it?
That's the wrong plan.
Okay.
The wrong one,
Okay.
definitely put in.
All right, and then.
That's on me.
Did you,
The
did
real
you
one
show?
is on the screen.
Okay. Did you guys show erosion control along the property lines? So no erosion goes off property?
The, what would be the silt fence, I mean, the lot's flat. I mean,
Right,
There's not.
but during construction, things happen, heavy rainstorms, whatever, contractor
Yeah, I think
negligence.
it was, we show that, and part of that would be, that, I don't know if it's in the methodology that he was working up, but they said first that the top surface would be stripped off, so that actually it'd create, because the surface is gonna be very much stone, the top surface of the ground would be stripped off during construction, and it'd actually be a basin that would catch water, not run off water.
Right, but after everything's backfilled in and everything's flat, will it,
Well, then
we
the
should
surface
show
won't
erosion
run off.
control?
It's mainly stone, a crushed stone, large pea stone surface.
Right, but things happen during construction over a period of months. So if we could add erosion control along the property lines, that'd be helpful.
Yes, it
So
is.
then that will satisfy
Says-
anything that comes off that property.
Proposed limit of work, silt fence staked in place.
Okay, but
Yeah.
is it on the plan?
It's on the plan.
It's on the plan, okay,
On the plan, it's represented as the actual border of the property, I think.
okay, great. And then on the building plans that were presented, there were vertical boards shown on that architectural
what?
plan. There were vertical boards going underneath the house on the building plans?
That's correct. My recollection is that there's a screening, similar, it's a version of a lattice simply to provide screening
Yeah,
underneath the
It
building.
wasn't a lattice, it was vertical boards.
But I believe there were spaces between those boards, and I believe, my recollection is that there was testimony that would meet the free of obstruction requirements of FEMA to allow, I think it was 40% flow-through.
Yeah, I think it's 3-inch spacing between that.
Yes, sir. So
Okay.
it complies with the state
So that will
building
help
code
with
and the-
floodwaters
Yes,
flowing
sir.
through, okay.
Again,
Not
the
solid.
waters aren't going to be rushing through that area, they kind of rise up, but that allows the water to flow through, and it, prevents children and animals from getting under the house presumably, which you don't want to happen.
Okay, yeah. I disagree with the floodwaters. I've been in that neighborhood several times.
Yes, sir.
It's open on the street, and then all the houses are all lined up. If you go in the backyard of these houses, it's clear to the ocean. So when the water comes, it's going to flow down the street and down the backyards, and then infill, so.
Yes, sir. So to the extent there's any grade change in a road, I would expect to see water moving downhill in the street, which I understand
Yeah,
completely.
the dune at
But
the end
that's
is-
not how I'm talking about how the overall floodplain works. But yes, if it hits a hill, it's going to roll downhill with some
Right. The
velocity.
dune at the end of the street and at the end of the backyards is higher than this elevation in most of the street. So, yeah, once it goes, crests the dune, it's rushing down the street, so.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, before we go back to commissioners, there was some letters here. So this one from Kenneth Lane from August 11th. I thought we read that into the record,
When he originally submitted it, it was not requested to be read into the record, just to be reviewed.
but he wants
And
us
then
read
he
into the
sent
record.
A subsequent email after that hearing to have it read into the record.
Okay. All right. Okay, so let me read these first and go back to commissioners. Okay. All right, the first one is from Kenneth Lane, 28 Wilson's Grove and 89, talking about 89 Bluff Ave, so that's been approved. Okay, so, Dear Conservation Commission, my name is Kenneth Lane. I'm a property owner at 30 Wilson's Grove, which abuts both the subject properties. I have some concerns regarding both projects, so I'm just going to read the section about 28 Wilson's Grove. All right, I'd like to start by saying that the Neals have been our neighbors for around 50 years and are good friends. I fully support their choice to replace their existing house as they supported us 20 years ago when we partially replaced part of ours. One concern is where the property line falls in my driveway. If their new house is any closer to our house than the existing one, then I most likely would not be able to park in the driveway. There's no other acceptable area for parking on my property. The distance between our houses is approximately 10 feet, and I have side steps protrude about an additional 20 inches into the driveway. Our property line is about 18 inches from the Nealed house. The bottom line is that the remaining width of the driveway could be reduced to less than 7 feet, which is the approximate width of my car. There's currently a surveyor's red flag up against the side of the Nealed house, and it indicates that this is the side of the new house. If that remains unchanged during any future design iterations, then my driveway will not be impacted by the new house. My driveway will remain as it has for the last 80-plus years, and this issue goes away. I wanted to make sure all involved are aware of this in the event the new house location is changed from the current surveyor's markings. Another potential issue that I would like to mention is that the leaching field for my septic system is in my driveway and extends approximately right up to the property line on the Neal side. I have pictures of the excavation done in 2020. And I'm concerned that the new foundation excavation installation may impact the leaching field capabilities. This current system installed in 2020 is my third septic system since 1991. Last item of concern is any drainage from runoff due to changes made to the Neal property that may impact my septic system. My hope is that each of these items will be evaluated as part of the permit approval process to minimize any impact to my property. Again, I support the Neal's raise and replace and will help in any way to resolve any conflicts. Okay, next letter is from George East, 22 Wilson's Grove. The owners of 28 Wilson's Grove, Hayworth and Kathleen Neal, have been fine neighbors for a half a century. I'm sure they will do their best to comply with the current conservation requirements being applied to our seaside community. Please approve their raise and replace application. Okay. Next letter is from Brad Crosby, 4 Wilson's Grove, dated to the Conservation and Zoning Board of Appeals. Letter of support for Howie and Kathy Neal project at 28 Wilson's Grove. Dear board members, I'm writing this letter to express my full support for the proposed raise and replace project by my neighbors, Howie and Kathy Neal at 28 Wilson's Grove. I now reside at 4 Wilson's Grove and summered at our family cottage at 32 Wilson's Grove since the 50s. I'm very familiar with the specifics of their project and similar development on our street. I have no concerns regarding the proposed new home footprint or its proximity to the property lines. I can speak to this from a unique first-hand perspective because in the early 1990s, the house next to my family cottage at 32 Wilson's Grove was raised and replaced. The new foundation was built a few feet from our cottage foundation. The project was completed successfully and without any issues. I'm also aware that the builder and designer professionals with CGL and/or errors and omissions insurance who are taking all necessary precautions to protect the neighboring properties during construction. I'm confident that Howie and Kathy will be good neighbors throughout the construction process. This project represents a thoughtful and positive addition to our community and will allow them to enjoy their property year-round during their retirement. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Brad Crosby. And last letter is from Gene Roca at 2 Wilson's Grove, to whom it may concern. I'm writing this letter to express my strong support for Howie and Kathy Neal's proposal to raise and replace a home at 28 Wilson's Grove. As a full-time resident of this community since 1986, I've had the pleasure of knowing the Neals for many years. I can attest that they are and always have been exceptional neighbors. They're kind, considerate, and have consistently maintained a lovely home that contributes to the welcoming atmosphere of our street. The proposed project to replace their current small home is a thoughtful solution for the growing family. I believe the Neals project at 28 Wilson's Grove will not only benefit their family, but it will also be a significant and positive addition to our street and the broader community. The new home will contribute to the aesthetic and value of the neighborhood. I fully support this effort and ask for your time and consideration in improving this application. Sincerely, Gene Roca. Okay.
Chair Cook, could I just briefly respond to Mr. Lane's concerns? I just want to make clear that
Sure. Sure.
The proposed house is not getting any closer to his property than the existing house. In fact, I actually have photographs of the installation of his septic system. When they excavated for that, they literally dug right up against the Neal's foundation. You actually can see it in the photographs. And I think it's a great example of why the contractors need to take care in doing the work that the Neals are posing. It can be done. It can be done safely without damaging any properties. And I can show you pictures of how that was successfully achieved for the installation of that septic system, which actually, well, they used a bobcat. There was a deep excavation, a leaching field installed, literally right up against the Neal's foundation. And so what we're proposing to do for this project is far less impactful. And I think this is a great example of how this work can be done by responsible contractors. So I have these photographs if you're at all interested in them. Again, we had not submitted any additional information because we're waiting to get a peer review report, but I have all of this information for you if you find that helpful at all. These are actual photographs of construction within that very narrow area that was done safely without damage to either of the properties, including my client's property.
Okay, thank you. Go to anybody in the audience or online, have any comments? Yeah. Please step up to the microphone.
Back again. Christina Wilworth, 26 Wilson's Grove, the abutter, probably with the most concerns around this project. Again, I'm just going to restate for the commission's awareness, I am not trying to prevent a project. I am trying to ensure that one is conducted and does not impact my property unduly. Could you put the drawing back up? So I just want to clarify for the record, we're talking about it sounded to me like we were talking about the entire house being on piers, but I read this plan to mean that the front part of this house is still a foundation and the rest of it is on piers. So if you actually understand where my physical house building is in relation to this house building, you'll realize that that area that's on a foundation actually represents almost a third of my house. So the construction methodology that was submitted, and I realize this may be a ZBA issue, only describes the hand digging or the manual digging for the piers. There was no mention at all of how the front foundation was going to be addressed. So I still have erosion control concerns. I understand silt fencing is common, but in this particular case, I would prefer to see something more robust if this plan is in fact going to get through commission and ultimately ZBA, because this is, while they're staying on the footprint, this is now putting a structure on top of where a deck is. This house is getting much bigger. And if you've been on the street and you've looked at 23 and 25, which I have to look at virtually every day, those are not easy construction projects. I'm watching them every single day. I watched the excavation. I've watched repairs have to be made to things that had to be moved. I see the runoff that's happened when they've dug, and they've had a lot more space. There's literally 10 feet between structures for each house on that side. So I just asked the commission to think about this carefully. While it has been done, and I understand my neighbors have expressed, other neighbors have expressed that they've done this in the past, that may be true. But I have to protect my property and ensure that that land is just not gonna erode away and suddenly I'm gonna have a basement wall exposed or cracked, God forbid. I realize, to the attorney's points, that there are recourse measures if something like that happens, but put yourself in my position. That's an after-the-fact remedy, not something that is entirely preventable, in my opinion. So, thank you for hearing me out, and I appreciate.
I think the plan shows pylons around the whole structure. I think the plan shows pylons for the whole structure.
I didn't read that in the front. Is the front foundation or pilings for the whole thing?
It's pilings. We have these squares here.
Is this part not a crawl space foundation? Is this all pilings? Because I understood there were 5 pilings.
There's in the front, there's a slab for storage, but it still is, the foundation is piers.
So everything is on piers? Okay, I appreciate the clarification because I understood this to be a
Yeah, so
foundation.
These square symbols are the piers as drawn by the architect. You have a set of plans, I think it was submitted for the last hearing, the architectural plans.
Yes.
So the whole thing's on piers? Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody online, Dan?
I don't see anyone online who wants to give comment, no.
Okay, all right, so we'll go back to commissioners before we make a motion on anything. I'll start with Neil.
Yeah, I don't have anything at this time.
Okay, Shauna?
So has this, the health department has approved the septic yet?
It has, I don't believe it's gone before them. Pete McEntee is doing that.
And where does this project stand in terms of the building department and the ZBA? Have they approved these plans?
It's waiting. ZBA is not going to open the hearing until there's a decision from conservation.
Okay. And I'm going to just verify facts to make sure I understand facts correctly. So the 2.3 feet from on this side is not decreasing the amount of space between the home or not. So that's
Correct.
And is that the current space between the two properties now?
In the upper existing conditions plan, it's 2.3, and actually at the front of the house, there's a deck area there at the entry. It's 2.2 feet from the property line.
So there's no really getting closer
It's not
to the
getting
neighbors?
closer.
Okay. And actually, the footprint of the house is decreasing.
The footprint of the house, overall, the shed is remaining the same, and the footprint is, it's going from 1,132 down to 1,089.
Okay, but we're putting a second story on?
Yes.
Okay. So really, in terms of water flow and where the existing house sits on this lot and where the new house sits on the lot are virtually identical? No?
That is correct. And I would point out with respect to footprint, please remember that we're elevating the house.
I don't care about the height. I care about how the house sits on the lot, because
Exactly. That point I was going to make.
Yeah,
Yes.
that predicates how water will flow on the lot.
The only, and the only point I was going to say is that, again, you're concerned with alteration of land subject to coastal storm flows. When we're done with this, the only alteration of land are the piers. We've removed we've removed the house, we've elevated, so we've actually dramatically reduced the amount of land that is altered within your jurisdiction.
But the footprint is.
Well, the footprint,
is
the size,
actually
the size of the house is the size of the house, but you should be concerned with the amount of land alteration, because typically you have a conventional foundation. If you have a 1,000 square foot house, it's 1,000 square
So
foot of land alteration.
my question is like a yes or no question. So I get your position, but the footprint of the house is decreasing almost 2% per your plans here.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask for clarification?
Sure.
Hold,
I'll leave it to the
Oh.
chairman to.
yeah, we'll come back to it in a second. Just go through commit. All set, Shauna?
Yeah, I think, if we were in Manhattan Beach, California, somebody would know how to build this house. And my concern really is probably the same as everybody in this room, is how does somebody build this house, take this house down and rebuild it in the amount of space that they have? It can be done, but it's just not something that is done frequently in our area.
Okay. Great, thanks. Sandy?
Okay, going back, did we get a waiver request for land subject to coastal storm flowage?
Yes, we did submit
I didn't see it.
the Regulation 25 waiver.
I don't remember seeing that electronic.
It was submitted at the last hearing.
Okay, all right, so I didn't go back far enough in the files, okay. All right, good, thanks.
Okay, Rich?
No questions.
Okay. Sarah?
Yeah, thank you. I think, my concern remains the cumulative impact here, and I think just for the benefit of the commission and the community, coastal zone management does offer peer review. They offer many resources to conservation commissions and commissioners to allow for technical support from subject matter experts like coastal geologists that do understand how floodplains work, and they can speak with accuracy and authority on information about how our understanding of this has changed. In particular, when we're considering the impacts of projected sea level rise and increases to storm flow and other climate impacts, and also the changes to floodplain functioning in response to a built versus an undeveloped environment. So we've seen this in the CZM manual that I know I reference quite often, and also earlier this year when we heard a presentation from Rebecca Haney, who's a coastal geologist with decades of expertise on floodplain protections and functioning, who works for CZM. I also just want to point out, again, for the benefit of the commission, I'm not a climatologist, I'm not a coastal geologist, but I'm interested in this, and I have been, doing my research here, and the scientific community has actually discarded the bathtub model of coastal flooding. It doesn't factor in a lot of the complex physics, technical elements on how flooding actually works. And the people who do understand this and who have, the ability to speak on the evolution of the scientific community's understanding of this are specialists like coastal geologists. And that is who I would like to hear from before rendering a decision on issuing a permit for this project. And I will just say that as it stands, I do not feel that I have enough information to make a determination that the project as presented does not induce unacceptable, significant, or cumulative effect on the wetland values protected by our bylaws as defined in Regulation 24. So I will put that out on the table and again stress that I would like to see peer review from a subject matter expert to ensure that we have sufficient information to understand the cumulative effect of this project as presented on the wetland resources that we are charged to protect.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. I have a couple more questions. First one is the proposed shed. How is that going to be fastened to the ground?
I don't think it'll be fastened, probably like most sheds, it'll be on blocks.
Okay, so when the floodwaters come, that shed's just going to flow? It's going to move?
If that's how it's done, then it could be lifted and float, yes.
Okay, so I have a concern with that.
Conditions to do.
So the reason that you're just going to set it because it's just sitting on the stone for the SAS?
Yes, because currently, it could possibly go down with some small helical piles or something. It will be at ground level and not elevated, as most sheds would be.
Okay.
Tom, could we anchor that in some fashion?
Yeah, I would.
Saying with helical piles.
Yeah, if we can make that change in the plan.
Something
Well,
wouldn't make enough disturbance in the leaching area, I think, that it could hold a shed.
Okay, that'd be really helpful. And then my last question again, I'd like to come to, if we come to a compromise solution, I understand what all the other commissioners, and I know we'll go back to staff too, but can we get this to 4 feet off of the property line, similar to the other projects that we approved on the street?
Chair Cook, I think at the present time, the clients are not willing to do that. If I might
And
have
they're
a-
not willing to compromise.
At the present time, but I might have a suggestion as to how to go forward if appropriate, which is, again, I've said my piece about coastal zone management. I've interacted with Ms. Haney. She has opposed every coastal project that I've been involved with in the last 5 years. So that's where my bias is coming from. If you wish to reach out to your Barnstable resource for that, again, I have no familiarity with that entity. If that's a possibility and we can agree upon a scope, we're certainly, I'd recommend that to the client if that helps move this forward. It seems to me that we do need to provide some additional information to the commission, minor things like an anchoring system for the shed. I do want to submit to you the photographs that relate to the construction of the leaching field. I think they're helpful to understand kind of real-world construction. And there may be additional information that we can bring to bear to give you, again, a measure of comfort with respect to the construction aspects of this. So
Okay.
our request, I think, would be to request a continuance, just so we can get you all of this information, because I'm trying to read the commission. I can't get a good read of the commission. We don't want to force the commission to close the public hearing and deny the project. Our goal here is to get an approval of the project. And again, Ms. Thornburg is correct. I'm not a coastal geologist. I have a rudimentary understanding of flood dynamics. I have read 30 and 40-page reports by Woods Hole Group with respect to redirection of flood. I've never seen it done in an A zone. I have seen it done in an AO zone and a V zone. I have not seen it done in an A zone. So again, I'm giving you an amateur, unqualified sense of these things. But if there is a local resource that we can tap into, we can reach agreement regarding that, I'd certainly recommend that to the clients.
Okay. Go back to Dan and Drew for final comments, then to the abutter at the end.
So, just in regards, I just have some comments in regards to the peer review. So, when I watched the minutes of the last meeting, when the commission decided on a peer review, it was decided upon the concern for construction methodology. And Steve, I ran that by you after the meeting to double check that that's what the criterion was before I sent out the peer review request for services. So I just want to make that perfectly clear that that was the scope of the peer review, was construction methodology. If the commission wants to, and that was based on a consensus of the commission when this was last brought before you. So if the consensus is going to change to a coastal geologist, we'll be happy to reach out to the county services. The Woods Hole Sea Grant is the organization that has Brian McCormick, who's a coastal geologist. He's helped you out on 19 Cricket Way and 22 Triton Way. So we'll be happy to reach out to him. I just ask that we get clear direction and consistency on what it is we're looking for with a peer review.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Dan, any comments from you?
No comments from me. I just echo what Drew said, that the peer review has to be directed and have a set direction for that is the main thing. So whether it's going to be for stability of the flood zone during construction, or whether it's going to be for cumulative effects or anything of that nature, that can be assessed by a coastal geologist. That is the number one thing. So that's it for me.
Okay. And before we go back to the commissioners we'll talk to the abutter. Ma'am?
I just wanted to clarify.
Can you come up to the microphone again?
On the drawing, again, I know we keep talking about the footprint being the same, but if you look at the existing drawing up at the top, you see that there's a jog in the front. So that distance from the house, I don't know, I'm not exactly sure what it is, but that's actually being closed up. The house is now being made a box. So what is currently, let's call it a 14-foot alley between structures, as I read these, is going to double in length. So I keep struggling to understand how the footprint isn't changing. Can you help me understand that?
You know, I think in general, the question was, is it the same size? The footprint is changing. Is it the same size? Yes, it's the same footprint area of the house. And there is that, the house is, front of the house is further from the road, from Wilson's Grove.
Correct, it's pushed back.
It's pushed back.
Right.
And so that area that's being pushed back, taken off the front of the house, is going somewhere, and it is going into that area there, but that area too is not getting any closer to your house than the existing house is.
Right,
But
but
it's
it's
over a
going to
longer
be
distance.
a longer stretch with a very narrow space between the two houses, and this is the crux of my concern. So, Ms. Pitt, with your question about,
As long
is
as
it
there's a
getting
footprint.
closer? It is getting closer in one area. And so, again, I have not just erosion concerns, I have safety concerns. Those are bigger issues, but this alley between us is getting longer with this proposed structure. So, again, I'm reiterating my concerns, but I want the record to be clear that while the footprint might not be changing, the proximity and distance along the houses is.
Okay, thank you. All right, so, okay, going back to the commissioners, so let's get a consensus here. So Sarah's looking for the cumulative effects of flooding on this property, and that's what you would like to have a peer review on, Sarah, right? Is that?
That is correct, yeah. Cumulative effects on the resource area from the project as presented, and any recommendations to modify the project to reduce those cumulative effects.
Okay. Shauna, do you agree with that?
I agree with that, and I think, again, if we're going into construction methodology, I think we're overstepping our bounds, so it really has to be, you know, what happens to the resource area when this property is built.
Okay. Sandy?
Yeah, I agree with that. It isn't really our purview when the construction, but I understand the concerns of the abutters, and they have sent us letters, you know, asking us about that, to look into that, so I don't know what we really do with that. You know.
All right, Rich?
This isn't necessarily regards to that, but I just maybe have a comment or a question to ask in regards to the pilings or the construction of the house. Is it possible, and I think Thomas might be able to answer this, to reduce the excavation to either move the piles in? Can the house be cantilevered so the actual excavation can be more into the house and still keep the footprint of the house without, you know, minimizing the side of it? Was digging in a narrower spot and cantilevering each side.
Well, I'm a land surveyor, not an engineer and architect, but from what I've seen people do, I think that would be possible. But that's, I think some of the concerns mentioned would not, I mean, some of the concerns are about putting in the foundation, and I think it would be possible to move those piers a foot or two away from the property line. That would reduce the impact, the possible impact on the neighboring house. If that would be enough of a change, I think that could be done. But it'd be up to the architect to figure that out, of course.
Okay. Neil?
Yeah, I don't know that the construction side of things is not in my purview, so I don't have as much, have some issues with that, but that's not my purview, so I don't have any further.
Okay. Yeah, just, I'll reiterate my concerns. If Rich's idea works to inset the pilings to allow more space, that's what I was looking for, to be consistent with the other projects on the street that we recently approved, to get a little more separation from the abutter, that would help out. And then, yeah, cumulative effects, it'd be interesting just to see, you know, what that would be. But if we're willing to compromise to, you know, move the pilings in and move those vertical boards on those pilings in to get a little more space, then that might, you know, help out quite a bit.
Chair Cook, we'll take that issue to the architect and the structural engineer and give that to them, because that's a reasonable request to move that activity further from the property line.
Okay.
And again, My expectation is if we speak with a qualified professional, we're taking a non-conforming structure and we're making it conforming to the Massachusetts Building Code for flood-resistant construction, that the only logical conclusion will be that this is going to result in a net improvement to the functioning of that floodplain by allowing waters to pass beneath it. I don't know how anyone can reach any other conclusion, but if it helps this commission to get that opinion from, again, the Sea Grant program, we're all open for that.
Okay. So, okay, let's just do a vote for the members for the peer review. Sarah?
Sure, Steve, do we need to make a motion for this, or are we just reasserting that we like peer review?
No, I don't think we need a motion for it, right? Do we need?
We do have a request for a continuance. On the
Right,
table.
right, we have to make a motion on that, but I don't know if we need to make a motion
No,
for,
it's just consensus.
I would, yeah, either get a consensus, Steve, or take a motion, because that will be crystal clear as far as what the peer review is going to be for. I would
Okay.
appreciate it.
okay, all right, okay, let's do a motion. All right, do we have a motion for a peer review for 28 Wilson's Grove and go to I'm going to say, I think this is the right word, a public resource versus a private firm? Is that correct?
Chair Cook, can I make a suggestion that a motion to request a Woods Hole Sea Grant program to review this project for the cumulative effects on the wetland values associated with land subject to coastal storm flowage. So there's no question, we don't have to argue at CZM again or have this public versus private. Again, I think that's a reasonable request to make. I don't know where we are if they can't do it or can't do it within a reasonable period of time, but.
For my understanding, they will be able to do it, but
Isn't it in the,
not in time for the next hearing. I will say that.
Understood. That's why we pushed out this hearing for 30 days.
Sarah mentioned the Barnstable County resource too, is that?
That's the.
Brian McCormick
That's
is
the same
with the
one, same one,
Barnstable
okay.
County Extension Office. Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah,
and
he's
he's
with
with
the
Woods Hole Group?
Extension.
Okay, okay.
he's a close to
Okay,
jail.
so,
I'd be happy to make a motion. Are we back with just commissioners?
yeah, go ahead, make a motion, yeah.
Okay, make a motion to request peer review for the project as presented at 28 Wilson's Grove from Brian McCormick at the Barnstable County Extension Office as soon as possible, with a focus being on evaluation of any unacceptable, significant, or cumulative impact upon the wetland values protected by state and local bylaws for the project as presented, and offering any remedies or recommendations for project modifications to reduce said cumulative impacts.
Okay, thanks. Motion made, second?
Second.
Okay, motion made, second. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Shauna?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
No.
Sarah?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, motion passes. Okay, now, we have a motion for continuance.
1 sec. What date would you like? November, we only have one hearing, and December, we have, I'm sorry,
Into December.
One hearing.
one hearing. Yeah.
Mr. Ken, when is your hearing in November?
November will be November 13th.
Do you think that that would be sufficient time to get a peer review report back and allow us time to be able to respond to it?
No,
For tomorrow.
I don't think it's going to be enough time.
Yes, sir. All right, then.
Yeah, I would go
we'll
for
have to look at
December.
that And when is the first meeting in December, please?
That is December 11th.
Thank you. Can we please continue to December 11th?
Okay. Need a motion for 28 Wilson's Grove for continuance to December 11th.
So moved.
Okay, we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made, seconded. Roll call vote. Shauna?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, thank you,
Thank you for your
gentlemen.
time. Good night.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
just quickly, just a point of clarification. Woods Hole Sea Grant is under the Barnstable Cooperative County Extension Service. They are one and the same.
Okay, great, thank you, Drew. I wasn't aware of that, so. Okay. Next item, notice of intent filing 275 Quiniquisette Avenue, Southwest Mashpee Properties LLC. Proposed construction and maintenance of a 12 single-family homes with paved driveway, sidewalk, drainage system, and utilities. Representative is Baxter Nye Engineering Surveying, continue from May 4th, 2023, November 14th, 2024, February 14th, 2025. DEP number 433237. All right, good evening, gentlemen.
Hello, good evening, everyone. For the record, Matthew Eddy, professional engineer with Baxter Nye Engineering and Surveying, representing Southworth Mashpee Properties LLC. With me to my right here is Michael Soers. He's a wetland scientist with Fuss & O'Neill. Also online via Zoom is April Dorosky with Fuss & O'Neill. She's a wetland scientist and permitting specialist, which she's been helping us with DEP in the NEPA process. And then also Jack McElhenney is online via Zoom. Jack is the attorney for Willow Bend. So we're here just to give you an update. We're not expecting a vote to close this hearing, and I'll explain why. And you know, I know there's some new commissioners here, but it's been a long process with this one, you know, significant project, a lot of detail, et cetera. The last hearing that we had before you was end of February of this year. At that point in time, we gave you an update. We submitted the full set of revised plans. There was an update, if you recall, reduction from the original initial submission of 14 units down to 12 units, a significant reduction of the proposed wetland impacts. Those were all reviewed at that February hearing. At that point in time, we were still waiting for the planning board approval. The project was remanded by land court back to planning board. That we did receive planning board approval in April. Obviously, we were waiting to get planning board approval before Willow Bend wanted to, you know, continue to move forward and invest funds and efforts. You know, wanted to know that they had a project. So that did occur in April. And then, so once that approval was in place, we started to move forward with the design of the mitigation, the bog mitigation and restoration, and the review process with the state, which is very involved. So we then had meetings with both MEPA. The project is subject to MEPA review because of the bog restoration, because of the size of the bog restoration. That is a threshold that requires MEPA review. So we had a meeting with MEPA and the associated agencies the end of April. We then also, the end of May. Then in June, we also had a meeting with Mass DEP to discuss the project, to discuss the comments that were made as far as, you know, meeting riverfront regulations, performance standards, et cetera. DEP agreed that the project, we submitted memorandums, narratives, worksheets, identifying the performance standards and how they are met. That's all part of the package that was submitted to you, and that's before you tonight. DEP agreed that the project as being proposed can meet the regulations, does meet the regulations. The mitigation that's being proposed, as I know there was discussion, if you recall, about the mitigation being off-site, being, you know, directly adjacent to the development, that is allowed as well through the regulations. So we got the consensus from DEP that yes, this project can meet the regulations, does meet the performance standards, et cetera. So we are now into the design detail, if you will, for the wetland restoration. Going back to the initial hearing, what we had talked about with the commission at that point in time, and then that follow-up that I had with Drew, was that we wanted to wait, and Drew wanted us to wait to come back to you until we had gone, you know, had those initial meetings with the state agencies that I just identified, and then started to develop the bog restoration, wetland restoration plan, which you have before you. So that has been started and is underway, and Michael will be speaking to that as well. So as a recap, I just wanted to give you, kind of a recap on that. Happy to answer any questions, as I know, again, there's some new members as far as just kind of the history of the project. But so with what's submitted to you tonight, We submitted the revised master mitigation plan, which is what is up on the screen. Yeah, if you go back to that sheet, yeah, there you go. And the table on the right has been revised to identify all of the detail of the areas and types of mitigation that is being proposed, which is significant, and I will touch on that quickly. We also submitted the conceptual design for the wetland restoration, which Michael will walk through in a moment, and then also all of the supporting documentation, narratives, et cetera, that I just explained. So again, just from a recap as far as impacts that are proposed and then mitigation that we'll talk about. The project ends up with, we had 191 square feet of BVW impact, and that was solely associated with the stormwater management design for pretreatment adjacent to Quiniquisette Ave to intercept the existing runoff off the road and pre-treat that. Has really had nothing to do with the project development. It was an improvement that the town requested us to make, and we agreed to do that, so that's the only reason for that impact. There is also a small amount of impact to an IVW, isolated vegetated wetland, on the site of 746 square feet, so those two areas total 937 square feet. The mitigation plans being proposed, again, detailed on the right-hand side of that master mitigation plan. We are actually now providing a 5.24 acres of wetland restoration, which is the removal of active bogs and being restored to a active wetland system. Again, Michael will walk through that. We also have, these are a couple of new items here. There's also an additional 6,000 square feet of actual wetland creation, wetland replication, and that's coming from the removal of the existing dikes that exist in the bog systems. And there's also two of those areas that act both as dikes but also cart paths for the golf course. Those are going to be removed as well, so that totals 6,000 square feet of actual wetland replication on top of the wetland restoration. And then we also have approximately 27,000 square feet of buffer revegetation, which that includes the, if you could maybe, Dan, just zoom back out, and I'll point to the screen just so we can see the plan to the left there, yeah. So the buffer revegetation includes the bog road that exists here along these active bogs. That will be revegetated. And then this area here, which this is a new area, you haven't heard us discuss this. This is where there's an existing tee box. Sorry, Steve, over here.
That's all right, yeah,
on
yeah,
this
no problem.
screen over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So that area there, that's an existing tee box for this golf course that is here. And so this, Willow Bend has decided to actually relocate this tee box over to this area where it's already disturbed. This is all cart path. As if you're familiar with golf, there's multiple tee boxes. So there's tee boxes here, here. There's these existing ones here, which will get then relocated to here, and there's a couple of tee boxes here. So that was another significant improvement. By bringing this over to here, it allowed this, which is a cart path, and this, which is a cart path, to be totally removed. We were looking at potentially those are going to be done as a bridge, maybe a culvert, box culvert. Those can now go away totally. So now it's a full, connection and restoration of the of Quaker Run. So that's where the 27,000 square feet of buffer revegetation comes from. So a combination of all those mitigation, that's approximately 6 acres of mitigation in the resource areas. I mean, really significant. Really pretty excited about it. And I think when you see Mike's plan on the bog restoration, I think it's going to be a great project. The mitigation that I just walked through, that exceeds the requirements, the certain mitigation that's required, it exceeds it by, on all counts, depending on how you want to look at it, by a minimum of at least threefold of what the actual requirements are. As an example, for riverfront restoration, we are providing almost 3 times the requirement that's required under the Wetlands Protection Act for riverfront restoration based on the project as proposed and the impacts of the project. The buffer restoration, based on the bylaw of the town, we're providing almost 10 times the amount. And then for wetland creation, if we use just the total amount of wetland impact of that 947 square feet, which arguably could probably be a little bit less than that, but we use that total amount, we're actually providing 3.5 times the requirement of wetland creation. So again, a significant improvement and mitigation package being offered. So I touched on that, we had the meetings with the state agencies. Again, I believe we have concurrence with them as far as moving forward. From a process standpoint, real quick, and then I will turn it over to Michael. Again, this was to bring the commission up to date. We're hoping, after Michael walks through his presentation, that we'd like to get a consensus from the commissioners that we are moving in the right direction and that we are hopefully addressing your concerns, because obviously Willow Bend is expending a lot of time, effort, and dollars in this project, and we want to know that because the next step here to then now really delve into the full MEPA process, and we have Chapter 91 because of the bog restoration, so that's excavation in that area. We have to deal with Chapter 91 at the state. We have to deal with water quality certification. We have to deal with Army Corps, MEPA, et cetera. So that's fairly intensive and costly effort. So we just want to make sure that, that we have the consensus from this commission that, yes, what you're doing, we like, it's meeting your concerns and so forth. So from the permitting standpoint, with MEPA involved, we need to, and it's recommended to, keep the notice of intent open. That's why until we get through MEPA and MEPA approves it. Once MEPA approves it, we will then hopefully be at that point, and we'll be coming back to you, again, at least once, maybe twice, depending on what the commission wants. But once we get through MEPA and get a MEPA approval, then that's when we'd be looking to hopefully then close out the notice of intent and request an order of conditions. Hopefully, that's the path forward here. So we hope. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Michael, and I will let him.
Matt, I have one quick question for you. So I'm reading here, so that Mass DP wanted you to file 2 notice of intent filings.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry,
Right.
yes.
One for the construction for the 12 units and one for the bog restoration.
Correct.
These plans that you presented, are these for both?
No. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. I meant to mention that. So part of our meeting with DEP is they requested, and we had a lot of dialogue on this, they requested, instead of it being 1 notice of intent, they want it to be 2 notices of intent. So the NOI that you have before you is for the residential part of the project, with the understanding the mitigation that's being provided by, identified on the plan before you there on that master mitigation plan. Then there will be a second notice of intent that will be filed just for the actual design detail. So right now, that's a conceptual mitigation plan that Michael will walk through, but then there's going to be design, details of that restoration plan. That will then be filed as the second NOI under an ecological restoration project. And that's how the state wanted it to proceed. Now, Michael and I were just talking about this a little bit. That second notice of intent, the timing of the filing of that, it has to follow the MEPA process. My hope is I'd like to file that prior to MEPA closing their, approving and closing the file, so that we can just get it going, but it has to follow, near that MEPA process. Like, we can't file it, not that we can't, it's preferred that we don't file the notice of intent today while we're working through the MEPA process. That's just the permitting structure, if you will.
So you're saying on this notice of intent, this is the current notice of intent for the 12 units.
Yep.
The mitigation is in the bogs. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
So is that overlapping with the bog restoration, or is it?
All the bog restoration, all the mitigation I just went through, the bog restoration, the revegetation, the wetland creation, that's all part of the mitigation that proposed for the project. MEPA, I know it gets involved here, but MEPA requires you to look at the project as one project. They won't let you segment it. So we have to look at it from the development project and the mitigation. Maple looks at it as one. DEP said they just want 2 filings because the bog restoration by itself is what they consider an ecological restoration project. So the notice of intent that we filed already, that you have before you, that will be the notice of intent and hopefully ultimately the order of conditions for the project. As part of that, that would be, a condition of that approval would be the approval of the ecological restoration project. We also, if you recall, throughout this process, Willow Bend has agreed that they will put up a bond as part of that first order of conditions. A bond will be posted for the value of the construction cost for the restoration of the bogs. And so that's how you keep it all covered, tie the two together, so.
Okay, great, thanks for clarifying that.
Yep.
And Drew or Dan, this all hangs together, because we would never want to approve the 12 units if the bog restoration wasn't going forward.
100%.
Yeah. So there was also the question of the project itself, or the units are on a separate parcel than the restoration. And for the DEP, you can't just tag it along a separate parcel onto another one.
But we can definitely condition the NOI.
Absolutely.
So if the bog restoration falls apart, then Willow Bend loses their opportunity to build these 12 houses.
However it goes, you can
Let me
condition.
comment at the end, if you don't mind. So what Matt had just mentioned before about a performance bond, that's the ultimate, mechanism of the commission, is to require a performance bond to be, provided by the applicant to assure that the mitigation component of this, the ecological restoration work, must take place. So as far as like the overall success, looking down the road, once you get through the permitting process and the actual where the mitigation restoration lands, as far as the success, those sorts of considerations can also be, part of an order of conditions for when it comes time for the ecological restoration notice of intent to be filed. You can have specific conditions instituted into that order of conditions to dictate, the overall success rate or monitoring and maintenance protocols and things like that to ensure that the mitigation is truly successful. But it's the performance bond in this notice of intent that would be an essential part of the order of conditions to require the ecological restoration component to move forward permitting wise.
Okay.
So Drew, I have one other question regarding that, and knowing that bog restoration is tricky and sometimes very complex and lengthy business, can we time bound the bog restoration? Like Willow Bend, and forgive me, is a, a commercial operation, and they want to sell 12 houses.
Right.
And I don't want the bog restoration to take 30 years.
It won't take 30 years.
But yeah, I understand.
Can we time bound it so that the work does not drift?
Yeah, and I mean, I think, absolutely we can agree to a
Okay.
condition like
Okay.
that, so yes, 100%. And we're with you exactly where you're coming from, yep. And then, just further to Drew's point, that performance bond, just, again, worst case scenario, even if with the performance bond posted for the value of the construction, even if the houses never went forward, town has a bond, that restoration can still happen.
I like that better than the other, the flip-flop on that, right? If your commercial real estate deal falls apart and the bond gets done, better for us, right?
So,
Okay.
is it
so-
okay if
Yeah,
Michael?
go ahead. No, that answers all our questions. It was I need a little more clarification there.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you asking that. I meant to mention the two NOIs.
Good evening. My name's Michael Soares. I'm a wetland scientist and soil scientist with Fuss & O'Neill. We are a civil and environmental engineering firm throughout New England. I work out of our Springfield office, but do a lot of restoration projects on the Cape and the islands. So we just finished a restoration project for a cranberry bog on Nantucket, windswept bog, and I'm working on about a half a dozen other bogs currently. This is a unique project, as we've already gone through on the sort of permitting side. But as as it was sort of talked about complexity, I would say this is a fairly straightforward system. And so I just wanted to talk, and I know the town has gone through either on its own with some partnerships or in some other bog restoration. Some of you are probably familiar with why bogs are restored or how they're restored. So I might just touch on that a little bit, talk about this site a little bit existing and where we're headed on the proposed concept design. And then sort of close it up with, what the project goals are for this site, and then, the next steps that we have, assuming there's support tonight. I would say as Matt said, this design that we're showing up on the screen right now is a concept design. So we have some site information going into this, but this is not something we would submit for permit review. This is just our initial concept of developing and understanding what the challenges and opportunities are at the site. So just very quickly, cranberry bogs are considered a wetland under the Wetlands Protection Act by DEP. However, if you start to understand them or are aware of them, they're basically an agricultural system. So for farming, they're great. They're successful in creating cranberries, but as a healthy natural ecosystem, they've been highly modified, extensively altered. So in terms of a wetland that we have today as a cranberry bog and a wetland that's restored, you just very broadly can think about the substantial change that it's gone through. So you have a very simplified system now. You have pretty much one plant growing. You have berms, culverts, ditches that are all controlling water extensively. You have 1 to 2 feet of sand that have been put on top of that wetland system for decades to help it to be well draining. So all of that quick exporting of water creates a degraded soil that basically will lead to an upland environment. And so what the restoration does is it takes out all that hydrologic control, turns over the soils a bit to get the native soils in that seed bank prepared to germinate. You get the water spread out, you slow it down, you connect these different cells, and that's where the wetland restoration happens. So it's really about understanding the ground surface and the water table and getting them to interact with each other in that growing season. So we're getting the wetland communities. If we create some physical diversity, some shallow areas, some deep areas, that physical diversity starts to trend towards habitat diversity. So everything that we want to do and what we have done in other bogs is to set it on a trajectory where it's a healthy wetland, a sustaining wetland in perpetuity. So we can quantify that a little bit with wetlands. The Army Corps has a functions and values framework for assessing the quality, the function of wetlands. So if we assess the system today and the system afterwards, we have a degraded wetland system today, we would have a much higher functioning wetland system after the restoration. Just want to make sure I got everything. Okay. So existing today, we've got 5 bog cells. We've got that sanded surface I talked about. That is what they apply sand every few years to keep the cranberries well drained. That sand tends towards an upland habitat, so that's sort of a degraded situation. We also have perimeter ditches, central ditches. We've got the berms themselves that are shown in sort of the cross-hatching here. And Quaker Run, it's a perennial stream that runs through the site, really has been modified to the extent that it's just a straight channelized ditch running through the site, right? So the stream does not behave as a normal stream would. It's channelized, it's incised, meaning it doesn't really connect with what's around it. So when there's a high flow, it's really gonna move quickly through that system and go downstream. That quick export, like I said, is something we wanna try to go back against. So in the proposed condition, there are a couple of alternatives, but as Matt's kind of already gone through, the best alternative is really to rework the soils, fill all these ditches, take out the berms and culverts, and basically turn it back into a floodplain wetland. You can see in the concept, we're taking Quaker Run. This is conceptual, but the goal is to add a lot of sinuosity in that stream. So it's about a 1,500 or 1,600 foot long stream section now. We want to add about 600 linear feet to that. What that does, it just keeps water in the system for longer. And so that Yeah, thank you, Matt. There are some, if you could just move the image up slightly. So you can see the green in most of the bogs are our floodplain wetlands. The darker blue, sort of right where the pointer is now, that is called deep marsh. And so wetlands are generally wet. Deep marshes tend to be wetter for longer periods of time throughout the year. And so the idea there is to create, again, some habitat diversity. We have water that can be held for longer periods of time in some areas. Other areas are going to function more like a floodplain wetland that's more seasonally flooded. There's an existing pond there in Bog 3 that is going to remain. We're going to keep that aquatic habitat. Just above that, if you can see, there's a little red rectangle. Yes, thank you, Matt. So that in that southeast corner of Bog 2, there is an old pipe that connects to the active bogs that are still to the east. We're going to plug that. We're going to make sure they're disconnected. So right now, none of the water from the project area interacts with the active bogs. And so that's great. We don't have to worry about affecting their production or that water interfacing with the restored system. So that's an easy thing. And you can also see the sort of green on the west. I think Matt already talked about the tee boxes being relocated and the buffer restoration up next to bogs 1 and 2. There's another old kind of derelict tee box up there that's also just kind of a bulkhead that we would take down and naturalize that slope back into the down into the wetland. There's a access road on that west side with some buried utilities for irrigation. We've already been talking with Willow Bend. They'd just like to keep that system and be able to irrigate east of the system, so we can facilitate making sure that they still have those utilities there and connected to the east side. And they were part of the decision of moving the tee box over to sort of open up the system and have a more holistic wetland upland restoration to the site. And there are 2 culverts at the top end, the bottom end. We're not interacting with those. We're just working within these 5 cells to do the restoration work in there. I could get more into the restoration and how that's conducted, or we can get into those questions next. I'm happy to answer questions in more detail. All I'll really finish with in closing is to say that the restoration has a lot of potential to improve connectivity both for wildlife and hydrology. Once we connect the cells, we've got a hydrologic connection that also promotes better habitat, and then you've got better wildlife habitat in that direction. It's also an incredible change in how much time water spends on the landscape before it exits downstream into the ponds below or down into Shoestring Bay. So we can also think about this as the benefits to retaining that water, slowing it down, so attenuating peak flows going into Shoestring Bay, and some degree of nutrient uptake through that. And I believe through your approval from the planning board, there was a request to do some water quality
we're going to put
monitoring before and then after. And so we also have that as part of our scope in the next steps, is that we would be coordinating that sampling program for nitrogen. So that's the bulk of it. I'm happy to answer any questions. I would just say we're prepared, as Matt said, if there's support for this, we're ready for going into further detailed design, all the permitting, and to your comment before about it dragging out, we're on board with moving this forward as quickly as possible with the performance bond. That doesn't really seem to be a concern. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, go to commissioners for questions. Neil?
Yeah, I don't have anything at this time.
Okay, Shauna?
Was this pond a natural pond, or was that made at some point during the bog?
I haven't looked back in imagery. I would suspect it's constructed, but I'm not sure.
And none of these bogs are active cranberry bogs?
Oh, yeah, they are active.
They are, so,
yeah.
So is there then the added benefit of, are they being fertilized and stuff now?
Yeah, I mean,
So there's gonna be the added
the water
benefit
quality
that is-
aspect
okay.
of this is significant.
And then if you go, and
I'll go back.
if you go back up where the stream comes in, the stream comes from the other side of the road,
Correct.
right? Which is
Yep.
also a cranberry
Those are,
bog,
yep,
right?
correct. Yep.
So as you guys open up the stream here to be a better stream, what happens to the water on the other side?
They have a water control structure right at the bottom of their bog cells up there.
Okay.
So they can, if they want to, they can hold water at the bottom end of that. I would say holding water is really, the more I learn about it, that's less common. They tend to use a whole irrigation sprinkler system now for growing the plants, and flooding like that is really only used as a frost protection measure, but often, because it's such a difficult process to do that kind of flooding and to hold the water and then send it into the bogs, that often sprinklers are run for the frost protection instead of the flooding.
Is there any chance that that bog on the other side and the commercial nature of that would be able to take enough water, like stop the water from flowing into this restoration area to negatively impact this restoration area? So I'm thinking about like water use rights and things like that.
Right, yeah,
like
my understanding
Colorado
is,
River.
yeah, my understanding from Willow Bend's property manager is that it's all running on irrigation sprinklers and that they're not impounding water.
Okay.
So we were there a little while ago with the drought, and I mean, the section of Quaker Run through the bogs was dry. The pond was not. The pond had some water. So I think that's a little bit more of an issue. It's not a huge watershed.
Okay.
So if you get a dry summer like we just did, that tends to be more of an impact than what the cranberry farmer is doing.
Okay.
Okay.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
All right, Sandy?
I don't have any question. I just think it's come a long way from the first drawings we saw, so
Yeah.
I think it's good.
Rich?
No questions.
Okay, Sarah?
Good evening. I do have just a couple of questions. Thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation and all the documentation. I do just want to first note that on the letter dated September 24th, we have, as a commission, had a reorganization. So Steve Cook is currently the chair. This is addressed to Paul.
Sorry about that, Steve. Sorry.
Wanted to point that out, minor point. And I'm glad to hear that we're not adjudicating the permit today, but I had just a couple of questions on the regulatory triggers. So I did see in the memorandum from back in June that Wetlands Protection Act is addressed, and then in looking at all the numbers, and forgive me, there's just a lot of numbers and a lot of things to take a look at, but it looks like regulatory triggers are going to be activated for us for Regulation 19, which is wetland impacts. Our regulatory triggers 300 square feet of alteration, and this combined is 937. And then we've also got, I believe it's, sorry, I'm looking at my notes as well. I'm looking at our riverfront, Regulation 33. Our riverfront area trigger actually lists 200 square feet, not 100 square feet from the rivers, and we have a regulatory trigger of 5,000 square feet, and this is looking like 40,740, if I'm getting the numbers right. So all that to say, when this is resubmitted, we are going to need a very comprehensive waiver for this. In looking through the documentation, I only see a waiver for the wildlife habitat evaluation for the isolated vegetated wetland for Regulation 20. So I would just be very curious. This is quite an investment on the part of Willow Bend, and certainly a 6-acre bog restoration is incredible. And costs a lot of money to do and to maintain over time. I'm imagining there's quite a bit of money to be made on this project for you all with these 12 new houses. And just to maintain consistency, making money for Willow Bend is not a compelling need for the project. So I would like to see a really beefy waiver request when you are ready to come back before us, just addressing the requirements for a waiver request for submittal, and And in terms of moving in the right direction, I do appreciate the bog restoration and all of the information here. I do just want to point out that, our own local bylaws say that, activities are only permitted if they're not going to induce adverse cumulative impairment to critical characteristics of our resource areas, not if mitigation is presented to offset those adverse impacts. So I just want to make sure that we're considering, the impact as well as the benefit. And then I did have a question on the stormwater, and I know that this is more with the zoning board, and I'm kind of curious because I see that we're focused a lot on trade-offs for the disturbance and adverse impacts in exchange for some really enhanced and significant stormwater management mechanisms, and I just wanted to ask if the project as proposed is in compliance with the green infrastructure bylaws for the town, and if we're designing to that watershed protection standard rather than the MS4. If you could maybe speak to that, or the status of the stormwater review for the project.
The stormwater management that has been designed per DEP policy. It was reviewed through the planning board process and their peer review engineer. So yes, the project follows all stormwater management. We're providing all, rain garden, bioretention, water quality basins, et cetera, within that development area. Controlling peak runoff, so yes, it's providing it, and it's actually exceeding the DEP stormwater policy for, all of the thresholds that they have for TSS removal, recharge. Again, we're treating existing runoff coming from Quiniquisette Ave, which is currently just going into the existing wetlands. So there's multiple improvements through the stormwater management aspect. Yes.
Fantastic, Matt. Thank you. And and we do have some local stormwater management guidelines as well, and green infrastructure bylaws. I believe it's chapter 174, but I would have to defer to the staff on that. And I just wanted to note on the plan, I don't see that. I know those take up space, so I would just be curious where those are going to be. I know this isn't the final plan, but
and just of note, the plans that you have before you, again, there's, as you all know, right, this project's been going on for a while, so there's a fairly voluminous file that you have. So there is prior submissions have the full set of plans which show all the stormwater management design, the grading, the whole nine yards. So it's probably about that thick. Yes. So there is, all that information is in the record. We didn't resubmit what was resubmitted before. But again, yeah, any questions that you have on that, we're happy to answer when you have a chance to look at it.
So thanks, Sarah. I'll piggyback on that. So we last saw those plans January, February?
February,
yeah, something like that. So when you guys come back, we're gonna have revised plans, updated plans?
From the development standpoint, the residential project development standpoint, there's been no revisions to that. It is, that design is finalized. This commission's seen it before. That's what's planning board's approved. What we're working through now is all the mitigation aspect and the bog restoration and the performance standards, et cetera, under the Wetlands Protection Act, et cetera. And that's what we've been working on. And when we finally got the planning board approval, that's what we're at. So there's been no changes to the project. But we can resubmit those plans when we come back, just as a full package again. But yeah, the project area itself of the 12 units, there hasn't been any design changes to those since probably the end of last year. And again, you've seen those.
Yeah, that'd be helpful because we get newer members. I haven't seen them in a while. So, and now we'll have all, erosion control and
Correct, you got it.
all
the
the details on everything.
It's a
Okay.
20-page
So
set, I think.
Okay, so you guys are going to come back with that notice of intent filing for the development and the mitigation?
Well, no, the notice of intent filing, that's what you have before you. That NOI for that development. So the notice of intent has already been submitted, and that's what we're reviewing now. The second notice of intent will be just the bog detail restoration, so the ecological restoration.
Right, but you're going to come back on, you mentioned earlier you're going to request a continuance.
Oh, yeah, 100%,
right.
yes.
So when you come back with a continuance, we have the whole new plan package for the development, or the existing plan package for the development, and then the new plan package for the bog rest. And you're going to do a separate notice of intent too at the same time?
The second notice of intent for the ecological restoration, that'll be a separate notice of intent. We'll have to discuss as to the timing on that. I'll discuss that with Drew if the commissioners have any thoughts. But again, it's tied to the MIPA process So, ideally, MIPA, they want us to hold on submitting that until we're near complete. I'd like to, I'd like to submit it a little bit ahead of that. If the commissioners are okay with that and Drew's okay with that, that's what we will do.
If I could just add too, we've developed some detail here, right? But we didn't want to go too far, assuming, we just wanted to make sure that the commission is supportive of the project in whole in terms of the development and the mitigation. So there's also some more site assessment and design work for us to do. But we didn't want to go too far on that before being here tonight and sort of getting some feedback on your consensus on the project.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks. Anybody in the audience? Any concern? Okay, we'll go to Dan and Drew for your comments on it.
No, my comments are none right now. Not until, obviously one of the conditions, when it comes down to that way, for a determination, if it comes to an approval, that one of the conditions would be predicated on the approval of the bog restoration as well.
Yeah.
So I think that is of agreement and one of the biggest points, I think. So no, I won't have any real comment right now, not until we see the finalized project as well as the bog restoration. Yeah.
Okay, Drew?
Yeah, and I would just echo Sarah's comments. Take a look at those regulations, 33, and was it
19?
19 or 20?
19.
Sarah? 19.
19.
19.
Yeah. So because they do have threshold standards, so when you're exceeding a threshold, and I say this with the understanding that you're, the ecological restoration component of this, clearly presents a compelling, net environmental benefit aspect of this proposal, but you do want to address those thresholds and craft a waiver narrative demonstrating, that those thresholds either could be waived because of the mitigation and ecological restoration being proposed, or addressed in some fashion, because they are thresholds in those regulations, so they do need to be addressed. So when you do come back, and I can, have more conversation with you, Matt, in the meantime, we can go over those so you're prepared when you come back to the commission for an ultimate decision on this notice of intent, that those thresholds are addressed through a waiver narrative.
Okay, understood.
All right, thanks, Drew. I think we can just poll the members here, so.
One other
Okay.
question, which goes back to the development. So these 12 units are going to be hooked up to the existing water treatment
To the
plant.
wastewater treatment, correct.
And there is no issue with that capacity being added to Willowbrook system?
No, that's going through DEP.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So you guys just wanted to see where the board stands on this project, right? You
Yeah, I
wanted
mean,
to say-
again,
okay.
understanding, the investment that Willow Bend has made and will need to continue to make. They just, we want to know that, hopefully that we're moving in the right direction and that we're, addressing the concerns of the commission, and so that Willow Bend is making a informed decision to move forward.
Okay. Drew, do we need to make a motion on that, or just a consensus?
I think just a consensus should be fine.
Okay, great, thanks.
Just let the applicant know if you have any issues with what's presented, or if you want to see anything else to be included when they do come back. That would be helpful for the applicant.
Okay. Neil?
Yeah, for me, I'm not a voting member, but 260,000 square feet of mitigation to me is a good trade-off for what you're proposing, so I would be in support.
Okay. Shauna?
This is a big leap forward from, I think it was probably one of yours and my first things, and
Yeah.
it's come a long way, and this amount of acreage being restored is a significant thing, so directionally supportive.
Thank you.
Okay. Sandy?
Same.
Okay, great. Rich?
Definitely support.
Okay. Sarah?
Yeah, I want to acknowledge the net environmental gain as Drew phrased it. I would also like to see a reduction in scope of the project. I think 12 houses, 7 of which are, so close to the riverfront property still leaves some room for improvement and a little creativity, maybe to move it back on the parcel and reduce the disturbance. But I think in general, the net environmental benefit is not something that I can argue against. I'm not certain that we need 12 more houses to get it, but let's see what you come back with.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm in favor of the project, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Yeah, so as far
continuance.
as, from a continuance standpoint, I'm thinking probably if we can just do it, continue to a date to be determined, which is what we did last time, just because of I'll coordinate with Drew, the design effort on the mitigation aspect, working with MIPA, et cetera, if that's acceptable for the commission.
Okay.
Drew, does that make sense to you? Oh,
Is Drew there? Is he gone?
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. We have a motion to continue 275 Quiniquisette Ave to a future date to be determined.
all right, thank you all very much.
Wait, we need
Oh,
to
I'm
make a
sorry, I didn't
motion.
vote yet.
So moved.
Okay.
Sorry.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second?
Okay. Motion made second. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none. Shauna?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Great night.
Next item, moving on. Does anybody need a break at all or anything? Need a break?
Yeah, please.
Okay. We have a motion for a 2-minute break?
Motion for
Seconded?
a 2-minute break.
All right.
Yeah. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Let's go in here.
So RCOC for 252 Shore is at the end. Do you think I should?
No, you don't need representation for it. It was all set. I did the inspection here. Definitely good. So, no problem.
Spunky, you know?
A lot of complicated projects.
We'll get it, yeah.
Especially this one coming up.
This one here?
So 132.
Yeah, 232 Shore Drive. Oh, 132, yeah.
Yeah. I went out there and it's nothing to do with this property. The core envelope that's holding up a golf course hole
Yeah.
is 100% exposed.
Yeah, I saw that when I
Did
went
you
by
see
my
that?
boat like a month ago.
Oh, so it's been that long?
Oh, yeah.
I know.
I noticed that some of it was open. Yeah.
I could see it from half a mile away.
Yeah.
I was like, what is that? Then I walked over, I was like, no way. So.
So down here, down on the golf course, down by
It's the point, the
hillside.
exact point right here.
Yeah.
There's like all the telephone pole piles.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I gotta talk to them because the poles must have rock stuck in them.
Yeah.
It's just a wall of sand blocking all the sediment transfer.
Oh, wow.
So,
Interesting things, though.
this happens.
Yeah.
And I have to have them go down with staff. and
Maybe
take
I'm
all the
thinking
rocks
further
out.
up, I saw something that looked exposed. Further up.
Oh, there was one here as well.
Yeah, that's what I think I
There was
saw.
one right here. They just dumped last week.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, this was like, that was like 3.5 weeks ago.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's.
Okay, ready to proceed? Do you have a motion to open up the hearing again?
Is Sarah back?
Let me check. She is now.
Yeah,
Okay.
she is.
I am.
Okay, good.
I just couldn't get to the button.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. Motion to resume?
So moved.
Okay, second? Okay, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay. All right, next item is notice of intent filing, 132 Shore Drive West. Jeremy Eisenberg, trustee, proposed beach nourishment plan, DEP number 433369, representatives Cape and Islands Engineering. All right, good evening, Mark.
Good evening again, Mark Dibb with Cape and Islands Engineering. We filed a notice of intent for the applicant at 132 Shore Drive West for a beach nourishment project for the property. The existing house is a developed lot located south of Shore Drive West and kind of northeast of Nantucket Sound. Resource areas on the site consists of from the Nantucket Sound sign, the land under ocean, land containing shellfish, then the coastal beach, as well as coastal bank up into the site, and the associated buffers are also shown on the plan. The project proposed is to provide beach nourishment by placing approximately 165 cubic yards of compatible clean beach sand on the coastal beach and provide ongoing beach maintenance. Purpose of the project is to protect the property against ongoing storm damage and improve resiliency for flood control for the upland infrastructure on the property. I do want to note that a similar project was approved back in 2006 when some of the other work was permitted. At that time, the same type of beach nourishment was approved. Construction access will come from the, you can see in the top right, there's a key map, will come from the upland area. There's an access point to the west that people use to do the beach nourishment. Construction access will all happen above mean high water, and again, access comes from that way. And now this is a pretty typical process for this type of lot. Again, it's to just add some sand back to the properties to continue to be resilient against, the way the ocean carries the sand away. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Okay, thank you, Mark. All right, go to commissioners. Neil?
On that coastal bank, I'm sorry, I didn't get out to this, this one, that coastal bank, what is that? Is that a rock embankment or is that vegetation?
I believe it's just a vegetated slope.
It is.
Yeah, what's that? Okay, Shauna?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, Sandy?
No questions.
Okay, Rich?
How do you bring the sand in? What do you use for equipment to get it there or to place it where it needs to be?
I believe they situate dump trucks up at the beach entrance over on the west side, and they'll load it into some kind of truck that can traverse across the sand without getting stuck and things like that. I have seen some of the proposed conditions from the agent, and one of them is trucks are required to stay above mean high water, things like that. I do know, I believe some of the neighbors also currently have active beach nourishment permits similar to this. So they take caution, but they do run vehicles from this site over to the access point.
Anything else, Rich?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, Sarah?
Yeah, thank you. Hello again, Mark. My apologies, I'm having a hard time finding it, but when I reviewed the application earlier, I seem to recall there was a letter from Natural Heritage.
The piping plovers.
Yeah.
Oh, it's always the plovers, man, they're so
Plovers,
cool.
yeah.
I mean, this is mapped as priority habitat, so I guess my question, Mark, is just, NESHAP presented conditions that they assert must be met to protect listed species. I just wanted to confirm that the applicant is prepared to meet those conditions.
Yes, we're prepared to meet the conditions, and I think the agents will run down their list of conditions, and we're prepared to accept those.
Okay. Yeah, there's nothing too crazy. I think there's a 10-year restriction or a couple of other things. And then the other question I had, can you confirm, so was it, the application says 2028, but I know that was a typo, and then later I saw 2010, and then I heard you say 2006, did I hear that? But basically, this beach renourishment has been done before on this property. How long ago was that?
Yeah, I noticed that it was that order number 432414 was issued on April 20, 2006. So that, yeah,
2006.
obviously it was not issued on 2028.
Sure, maybe, if we delay it long enough, I'm just kidding. Okay, so 20 years. And I guess the question would just be whether or not the applicant is considered, so we're not seeing this back again in another 10 or 15 years, given, accelerated erosion or storm flow. If there's anything that's been considered to try and secure that sand, like maybe extending the vegetation down a little bit, so we're reducing the sediment transport a little bit. Is that been considered?
I'm not even sure, expanding vegetation down onto the beach like that is a Wetland Protection Act thing you can do, but no, it's not considered. The whole point of the beach nourishment is to continue to protect things from eroding any further. So, it's a pretty standard practice that's been done along this coast. I think it has been working. It's just bringing in not a lot of sand to do this is an option for the property, and that's the one we're proposed.
Okie dokie. And then in terms of the neighboring properties, I did notice in the project we're changing the grade. Any impacts that you see to erosion or storm flowage to neighboring properties anticipated?
We're just trying to restore it back to the existing slope that was. I saw it earlier on the plan. We're just trying to keep a consistent slope, so it's restoring back to what it was early in the year. So no, it will not affect the neighboring properties.
Okay, thank you. That's all I've got, Steve.
Okay, thanks, Sarah.
Just
Mark, do you have approvals from the Butter and New Seabury to go across their property, or?
We will, I don't know if we have written approvals. I just spoke to a representative from New Seabury 5 minutes ago. But we will, make sure we do have the appropriate approvals before work takes place.
Okay, great. Okay.
I just had,
Yeah,
I
go ahead,
think,
Sandy.
just to ease Sarah's mind too, I think in the narrative it said that they were going to be planting native shrubs along the pathway. Is that correct?
Yes, there was. I'm stepping in for Raul. He's on vacation, so bear with me. Yeah, I did see that as well.
Yeah, but
There's an,
we don't have the narrative, I don't think. No,
let's see if I can find it.
I made that note, so I think so.
I know Tyler Goudreau contacted us. There is an ongoing monitoring plan, an invasives management plan, I believe, that is part of another approval that, that is taking place. I'm not sure exactly what the.
Yeah, at the top there was a permit approved, I want to say it was last year sometime, to remove all the invasives and replant the entire top up there where the stairs first start. So that's currently in its phases for monitoring.
So that's a previous order of
That's a
condition.
previous order of
Yeah, but I
conditions.
just wanted to let Sarah know that they are
Oh,
planting.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the same parcel, but it's on top of the bank.
Right.
They were waiting to, wait on the success of the removal of the invasives before they revegetate that pathway. But that's the location. It's up the top of the bank. It's on the parcel, the subject parcel, but it's at the top of the bank.
Right, I just wanted to let Sarah know they are doing something with the replanting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to clarify
Got
that.
that too. Thank you, Sandy.
It's from right here, this, was that the 150 line, all the way to the top of the bank is the entire area they were replanting and controlling.
Very native.
Yeah, they're returning it all to natives, yeah.
Okay. All right, Drew, any comments?
Yeah, so just, I think you should all have my recommended conditions if you close and issue this, so I won't go over them again. They should all be listed in my comments, but this access way is in between the last house on Shore Drive West and the Ocean Course, a portion of the Ocean Golf Course at Seabury. So this access point serves for multiple beach nourishment projects. The slope that's proposed for this beach nourishment, 165 cubic yards, is a 10-to-1 slope. And so when you try to reestablish that baseline slope, you're increasing the resilience of the coastal beach in the face of storm surges and wave energy. And Mark, just to clarify, this application is being requested for maintenance in perpetuity, is that correct? You want to have repeated beach nourishment year after year, or is it a one and done situation?
It was in perpetuity, yes.
Okay.
That's the request.
So that being the case, I just wanted to clarify that because I don't know if that was mentioned previously. Natural Heritage's decision, determination letter, which does, have very specific conditions, mostly centering on a time of year restriction and no interference with continued plover monitoring by qualified professionals from Audubon. So that letter and those conditions are good for 5 years. So if the commission is going to grant maintenance in perpetuity for, however long, as long as beach nourishment is taking place, you have to re-notify Natural Heritage after 5 years. So they can do another review. And the commission, just for the commission's awareness, we always put in a boilerplate condition in addition to the conditions I listed in my recommendation, that if at any time the commission determines through observation or through, peer review or what have you, that the nourishment is being more deleterious to the resource areas as opposed to beneficial, you have the right to cease the nourishment activity should that be the case. It's rarely the case. Beach nourishment is always beneficial in almost every situation. It increases the resiliency of beaches and banks and dunes to velocity force, wave energy, and storm surges. So it's more often than not a very good thing. But, sometimes there can be situations where beach nourishment may be too much, in a given situation. So that is a boilerplate condition that we build into every order of conditions for beach nourishment. And I'll be happy to answer any questions about the recommended conditions if the commission has any.
Okay, thanks, Drew. Dan, any comments?
No.
Okay.
Not for me.
All right, anybody in the audience? No? Okay, any other questions from commissioners?
I don't know if it's a question or your point of order, but when we do make a motion on it, is it acceptable to, instead of reading every single condition, just to say the conditions recommended by staff, as opposed to reading every single condition that they've listed?
That's a good question. Which, I haven't seen that before with the number of
This is a
conditions.
significant amount,
Do we want?
They're written as part of the administrative record, so I don't see a problem with that, but it's ultimately your decision as a commission what you would prefer.
Probably be worth it to read each one, so it's on the record, so anybody watching online, they can see it, because they won't have these recommendations, so I'd read it, would be my thought on it, so.
I agree with you on that, Steve.
Okay, all right. Seeing nothing else, we have a motion for 132 Shore Drive West.
I'll make a motion for 132 Shore Drive West to close an issue with the following conditions. Prior to any nourishment activity, the access way in mean high water must be staked, identified in the field. All conditions for NISPA to be incorporated into the order of conditions, including time of year restriction for piping plovers and allowance for ongoing plover monitoring during the migratory season. The nourishment is requested in perpetuity, but NISPA conditions are valid for 5 years. Thus, any nourishment proposed after 5 years requires notice to NISPA for ongoing review. Any correspondence must be provided to the commission. Prior to any nourishment activity, submission of sand grain size compatibility analysis for beach nourishment sand. Prior to any nourishment activity, submission of documentation for the supplier that sand is clean and washed. Fuel spill kit must be kept on site during all beach nourishment activity. No nourishment equipment or vehicles below mean high water at any time. 7 days advance notice to conservation for each beach nourishment activity. Submission of load slips for each nourishment activity.
And I would add, just make sure there's approvals from New Seabury Corporation and the abutter provided
Approvals-
to staff.
Okay,
Yeah.
approvals from New Seabury for the beach nourishment.
Oh, for access across the
access,
property.
yeah.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, motion made, seconded. Any other discussion? No? Okay, seeing none. Shauna?
Approved.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Thank you.
Mark. Okay, next item on the agenda is a notice of intent filing for 252 Shore Drive, Concert, New Seabury. Proposed replacement, redesign Papaneset tent and associated elevated deck. DP number is 433371, and representative is the BSC Group. Good evening.
Good evening, Hannah Raditz, wetland scientist with BSC. So I'll go ahead and give a brief overview of the project as it stands. So on the docket later tonight is an RCOC for the existing open order of conditions for the tent rebuild. That was never constructed, no part of it was ever done, and so that's being closed out tonight at this hearing. What's proposed in front of you tonight is a redesign of the tent, which is similar to what was originally proposed, especially in the elements that the existing tent at the site, which hosts events, will be rebuilt on top of an elevated platform. So the tent will be redesigned and installed on top of the elevated platform around the existing footprint of the tent. It will be somewhat smaller, not larger. So the tent to be installed on top of the elevated deck that won't be connected to the hotel, but it will be accessible. That is just to say that the elevated deck itself is not physically connected to the building. Has to do with stormwater standards. So the reconfiguration of elevated walkways is also proposed. To the west, there is an existing ramp that is going to be removed and replaced with an elevated walkway that is closer into the building. This is just to provide access between the tent and the other areas on the property. And while we're on the subject of this part of the site, in photos 4 and 5, I believe, that shows the area where the ramp is. Yeah, right there. So that shows where the ramp is, and we had neglected to also include that wooden walkway, the shell path, and the fence as an additional area that will be removed. This is a recurring theme, as on the opposite side, on the east side, there's an existing shell path and some fence which will also be removed. That's it right there. So on both sides, we've got the removal of this walkway, which will no longer be needed. The reason it won't be needed is the existing tent is flush on the ground. It has a concrete pad and the physical structure touching the ground, whereas the new tent will be elevated, so these on-grade pathways will no longer be needed. In addition to that, a walkway is also proposed on the eastern side. This is to replace an existing elevated deck that sort of wraps around the edge. And the purpose of this new elevated walkway is to provide access to the tent from the existing parking area. This will allow guests to the tent to be able to access the tent from the outside without having to go through the hotel or the bar area at the site. So the resource areas we have on site are land subject to coastal storm flowage. It's a VE zone. We also have coastal dune, which the tent and walkways are currently within, minus the proposed elevated walkway to the east, northeast. We also have Coastal Bank, which is located off-site. The Coastal Bank is fragmented and doesn't reach the areas where the work is proposed, but you can see we've got an angled buffer zone coming off of the Coastal Bank. And on that note, we have 150-foot buffers to coastal dune and coastal bank on the site, as well as to FEMA flood zone, though that extends far beyond where the project is proposed. So as I mentioned, the purpose of this project is to significantly improve the tent, as well as to bring it up to standard with the existing regulations. For the Conservation Commission, this is to remove that concrete pad base and the existing structures that are flush at grade, and raise all of the structures, including the walkways, to be elevated. In addition to this redesign, the replacement tent will be smaller and will, as a result, restore 857 square feet of coastal dune around the edges. That's sort of that striped area around the edge. And then in addition to that, we've got that checkered area where the path and the ramp are on both sides that show you where those structures will be removed. And the procedure there will be bring in some clean sand fill to restore the dune as needed. Skipped over that. So additionally, as I mentioned, the walkways, 552 square feet of shell access pathways will be removed and replaced with clean sand. And then finally, the additional measures of dune restoration will include 2,679 square feet of beach grass and dune grass plantings. We use the existing aerial, so those three little blobs are the areas of the dune which are very sparsely vegetated. The areas around there are very densely vegetated with rugosa rose mostly, which is a non-native. And even though it does have many benefits, the thing that this dune needs the most is more grass. So all of those areas will be a mixture of American beach grass and American dune grass. And finally, 240 square feet of a dense autumn olive patch, which is that narrow area right there, that will be removed and also replanted with grass. And as I mentioned, a revised plan will also show that walkway near the ramp to also be restored and planted with beach grass. Getting down to the impacts, so in most cases we are reducing the impacts to the resource areas, mainly land subject to coastal storm flowage is seeing a reduction, as well as coastal dune. The only increase in impacts to the site are associated with that new walkway to the northeast, and cumulatively 126 square feet for the 0 to 75 foot buffer to coastal bank, and 350 to the buffer to coastal dune. This area is currently developed. I think it's shown in photos 1 and 2. As you can see, there's a existing shell area, there's a shed and maintained hedge line. So no new impacts or reduction of native growing vegetation in that area is anticipated. They'll be able to use that corridor as it is right now without expansion. Finally, these aren't shown on the plan, but we understand that the limit of work should be shown, and so the revised plan will have these. But the procedure for this site will be first the installation of sediment and erosion controls, likely a staked silt fence around the limits of the tent and the areas that will have removals, such as the ramp. They will also likely have a laydown area on paved areas of the site, so not within the resource areas. A temporary construction access will likely use that same alley where the proposed elevated walkway in the northeast exists. They can facilitate this with track pads or mats to allow for an excavator or a crane to get back to the tent to do any of the removals, and then they will have a roll-off containers likely in the paved area to keep those away from the resource areas as well. Once they are done with that demolition as well as construction, they will use the clean sand fill in any areas where structures were removed or restoration is needed. If they do end up impacting some existing vegetation within the dune, they'll either be replaced in kind, or if it's rugosa rose, I think the best option would be adding more beach grass, because again, There's really dense patches of Fregosa rose out there. It definitely doesn't need to be expanded. That is the end of my notes, so I will go ahead and turn it over to the commission for any questions.
Great, thanks, Hannah. Okay, Neil?
I don't have anything.
Okay, thanks. Shauna?
I've got nothing.
Sandy?
So I believe now there's a ramp or a walkway that goes to the pool. Is that going to be removed? Is it connected?
Yeah, so that ramp there, I believe, currently connects the Poppy Inn to the tent. I don't think it connects all the way to the bar. There might be, the ramp you might be thinking about is by the bar area.
It goes to the pool?
Yeah, over there,
Yeah.
off to the far side. Yeah, so the existing ramp that's going to be removed, currently its only purpose is to connect the Poppy Inn to that tent, but it won't be needed anymore.
Okay.
All set?
Okay.
Okay, Rich?
With like the removal of the ramps and stuff like this, will this tent, now that's elevated, will it be handicap accessible?
I would assume it will be complying.
Hi, sorry to jump in. My name is Megan Brady. I'm with the architectural design team, S3 Design. Yes, the building will be accessible as well as the tent. Now that we're raising it up to the level of the existing Papaneset Inn deck, it will remain accessible.
Up the stairs to get into the tent in the end.
Okay.
That's all that.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else, Rich?
That's it.
That's it. Okay, Sarah?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Hannah. Good evening. I just wanted to confirm a couple of things. So, I heard you say that the size of the tent is smaller than the current tent. So the roof area of the proposed tent is also smaller, correct?
Yep. So what's included on the proposed resource area impacts table on the plan is one of the most useful things to see what we're looking at with impacts for the tent. And that is the biggest reduction, especially you could see around the edges is sort of like a hatched line that surrounds the existing tent. That's where the existing tent sticks out beyond what's proposed. So we're shaving it back within that.
Okay. And could you, and I'm so sorry if I missed it, would you just confirm for me what the foundation of the tent will be? Is this like a boardwalk that will allow water flow? I know we're removing the concrete slab, but how's this going to be elevated?
Yep. I don't know if you want to answer that one, Brian. I can also go into the notice of intent. I think I wrote down the piling supports.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, I can take this one, Hannah. For the record, Brian Ugation, professional engineer with BSC Group. Yes, and I'm just going to read right from the notice of intent. But the tent will be supported by welded aluminum columns anchored with concrete footings directly underneath the deck, the elevated deck. The deck framing itself will be pressure-treated lumber with synthetic wood decking and trim skirting.
Perfect. And so the synthetic wood decking, is that like some sort of PVC or?
Yeah, you could think of it like a Trex material.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. And then the final question that I have for the team that's here tonight, thank you all for being in such large numbers, is that I believe I saw the plan notes that there's one elevated walkway proposed that's in the velocity zone. And I wonder if there's a way to eliminate this, or what other alternatives you all have discussed.
I guess I'll jump in on that one. So the new walkway is hugging the building as closely as it can be. The purpose of this elevated walkway, which I believe I described in the waiver request, is to provide access to the tent from the outside of the building. This is just to benefit the use of the tent, as well as to remove existing shell pathways that won't be functional anymore, as the tent will be raised and not at grade. So we did discuss the orientation quite a bit. What is a benefit is what was originally approved. This elevated walkway was kind of going at a diagonal directly northeast across the vegetated coastal bank, and extending much farther to get to the edge of the paved area. So this is already a redesign of that elevated walkway to have it be shorter, much closer to the building, and not requiring the removal of any vegetated areas. So it is right flush against that developed alleyway and is next to that vegetated coastal bank. So those areas at least are relatively stable and don't have a significant risk of erosion during a storm event.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm looking here at our regulation 25 for land subject to coastal storm flow, and it does say, new construction or placement of any new structures within a velocity zone is restricted. And it sounds to me that this is a convenience measure to allow people to go from the parking lot directly into the tent, but there are other pathways into the tent. And so I would be hesitant to approve the new structure, given that it's, I don't feel compelling need has been demonstrated for us to grant regulatory relief for that particular piece. But those are the only questions I have for the project. Thank you all very much. Steve, I'll hand it back to you.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay, so Hannah, you mentioned that you're going to resubmit a revision of plan that shows the limit of work. Is that, we'll have that planting plan for these open areas for grass? Which I'm looking at photos 7 and 8.
Yeah, so we didn't intend to have any planting plans because the whole purpose of these is just to use American beach grass and American dune grass, which will just be interspersed sort of randomly. If we need an additional detail, we certainly have room on the plan to add what it would look like, but we didn't come up with a landscaping plan just because we are only using those grasses.
Yeah, I'd like to see a little more detail because I see the mitigation areas, but it's not addressing these open areas between the mitigation. When you look at your photos 7 and 8, there's open sand. I know it was, I read it, that it was going to be, so if you can, have more detail, say, okay, you're going to plant American beach grass in all these open areas too, to have a more detailed planting plan.
The open areas in between the areas that are called out to be planted?
Well, yeah, if that's what some of these open areas here on
The
in
open
photos.
areas are the ones we're intending to plant. So the reason it looks like there's gaps is because we use the aerial imagery and those areas currently have vegetation. So what we honed in on are the areas that don't have vegetation.
Okay, yeah, that wasn't made clear on this plan, so if
yep.
you can make it
We could
clear
make a
on that
note
plan. Okay.
that it's based on current aerial photography, and that could also be adjusted at the end of the project. If something has changed, they could expand those areas or adjust them if vegetation
Well,
moves
if you can present more detail on the plan, so it'll be easier for staff to understand it when they go out for inspections for a certificate of compliance, and for us as commissioners to.
So you'd be looking for like a plug-by-plug detail?
No, it just, you just
or a
fill in, you
note?
fill in the areas of mitigation, say that these are existing vegetation that don't need
Okay,
to be, it just wasn't clear to me.
understood. Just wanted to
Next
get
time,
that.
you mentioned about the construction methodology, to me, didn't have a lot of detail on it. So what type of equipment are going to be on this dune for the demolition and for the construction? So that, so if you can, provide more details on the construction methodology. And then we didn't have any building plans or piling plans. It sounded like that you're using steel posts with concrete footings. Is that what you said, Brian, in your presentation?
Aluminum.
Okay, with concrete, is it
Correct.
sonotubes or what is it?
Footings,
Okay.
concrete footings.
Does that, I don't know if that meets the building code for velocity zone requirements. I think velocity zone requires pilings, not concrete footings. So, you have a lot of decks, and now you have this elevated tent, because tent elevation is 12.6, and your velocity zone is 14, I believe. Yeah, 14, yeah.
It's FEMA compliant. It doesn't need to be raised to the elevation of the velocity zone. It's not it's a deck, it's not physically connected to the building.
It's not connected to the building?
Correct.
Okay, but I don't know whether aluminum posts on concrete footings will withstand a velocity flood zone event versus pilings. So, can you provide construction and building plans so we can make a better determination?
Okay.
And then, does this need NHESP approval or
Natural heritage?
National Heritage?
No,
Yeah, no.
it's not mapped to here.
Not mapped, okay. And then underneath the decks, you mentioned vertical boards. Is it open, or is you gonna have vertical boards or lattice?
Around the edges of the raised structures?
Yeah,
I am not sure about that.
okay, if you can provide that, that'd be great.
We would want lattice.
Okay, lattice might block the flow of sand to that, so that might be an issue there. And then you mentioned, Hannah, you're gonna put in erosion control on the revised plan?
It was noted in the agenda that we received today with the agent's notes that we didn't have a limit of work, so we will be putting in the limit of work via the erosion control line.
Okay, and you just detail what that erosion control is.
Yep, silt fence, as it, I think, noted.
If you do
But
something a
we'll
little
include it on the plan.
beefier than silt fence, because that's a high wind zone, so a lot of times silt fence won't hold up there.
Are you suggesting hay bales, staked wattles,
Yeah,
double silt fence?
Yeah, something beefier than silt fence.
Okay, if it's trenched, it usually stays in place, but we can double enforce it.
Okay, that's all I have for questions. Dan and Drew, any comments from you guys?
No comments from me.
Nope, the only one from me is, if the commission is looking at a determination tonight, that a condition be added for a clean sand certification. So wherever you're getting the sand from, just make sure they submit to the department, that's all.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Okay, do commissioners want to see?
Well, to speaking to Sarah's concerns, do we want to see some kind of a rationale for having this walkway in the velocity zone?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd like to see, well, I have a bunch of questions. I need more information
Yeah.
before I vote on this, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that mean that the explanation included in the waiver request is not sufficient?
Yeah, we need, yeah, because as Sarah said, this is to her and some of us, this is more a convenience, so you need to explain why it needs to be there, I guess, a little.
Yeah, and that's what I tried to achieve within the waiver request, especially honing in on the fact that overall we are reducing impacts in land subject to coastal storm flowage by 366 square feet. We're not expanding. And the elevated walkway, based on the previous design, it's far smaller, it's tighter into the building, and it's within an area that's already developed.
Are you
And it's
satisfied?
an improvement over the shell walkway.
Well, yeah, but
In addition, we're providing at least a 10-to-1 restoration on the site compared to the impacts within these buffer zones, which will also strengthen the dune in front of this walkway, which is quite critical for the protection. Understanding that this is a new walkway within an area that is developed, the dune will be strengthened by the restoration efforts significantly, especially with the addition of the dune grass. So we'll already be increasing the site's resiliency against stormwater flowing before it even gets to that walkway.
Okay. Are you satisfied with that, Sarah, or do you need more information?
Yeah, I mean, I think the information is sufficient. I just don't believe compelling need for that one particular piece in the velocity zone has been met, in my opinion. I would wonder if the applicants would be willing to, revise the project to remove that elevated walkway, or if it's all or nothing based on what's been presented.
Can I ask a question in terms of fire safety and things like that, given you're taking the two walkways off on either side, and given that there's kind of a narrow run to get out to the front of the Pompanesett Inn from the tent, do you need that for safety concerns?
Hi, Megan Brady again from S2 Design, the architecture firm for the project. Thank you for all your questions. The added walkway that is in discussion is part of the egress path off of the deck. Currently, the existing ramp from the Pompanesett deck down to the lower tent deck is the accessible means down to that lower deck, and is a means off of that lower deck back up and out of the facility. The added egress path on the side of the building that is in discussion will be part of the new egress path from the deck when that existing ramp is removed.
Okay, thank you. So that's the compelling need, because it's the second means of egress then, yeah. Okay. All right. Do commissioners need to see revised plans on some of the questions that we have?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, and then, so we have some of the questions that we asked, and then staff had asked for a revised plan for limit of work and erosion control too, so.
Yep, so I'll just go quickly through this. So we are going to be adding a limit of work with a sediment control line and more sediment control details. We'll be adding more additional landscaping notes to make it clear what these areas are planted in and what surrounds them, being existing vegetation. We are going to have enhanced construction methodology to present, piling plans, understanding if it's building zone compliant for the supports, confirming a note on the edges of the raised structures for what lattice will be there or other features. And am I missing anything else?
No,
One thing, Hannah, if you could just add to the waiver request, the fire egress as compelling need.
Understood.
Regulation 25. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so it sounds like we're gonna need a continuance.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so you're looking at October 23rd is our next meeting, or you can go into November 13th or in December.
Brian, what's your opinion on this? I think for the next meeting, we'd have to turn this around in a week.
Correct, yes. Yeah. So, November?
Probably, unless Brian is very confident.
I don't know if Megan, if you, I don't know how fast we can get the construction and footing plans. Is there a big lead time associated with that?
Given the importance of the timeline for this project, we will work with structural engineers to get that for the October 23rd deadline if BSC can also meet this deadline.
Well, the deadline would be a week from now. It wouldn't be the 23rd.
My apologies.
That's okay. Do you think that's still possible, or?
Yeah, I would think that is still possible.
So we've got a deadline of Friday, don't have a calendar in front of me.
17th? 16th?
It'd be next Thursday, actually, the 16th.
Next Thursday, okay, less than a week.
So, yeah, I was gonna say. So, and if it comes down to you do schedule that and you do need more time, you can just submit a request for continuance, and then you can go from there, because I think the reason would be pretty obvious from that point. You were just trying to fulfill commission wishes.
Okay, then we'll, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Hannah, I didn't interrupt, just was saying, understood, thank you.
Yep, then we'll go with the continuance to the next October hearing, and understanding that if we can't meet the Thursday deadline of next week, we will request a continuance.
Perfect.
Okay. Do we have a motion to continue 252 Shore Drive to October 23rd?
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Shauna?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Okay. Next item is the notice of intent filing for 37 Riverside Road, Secaucet Island, Vito Miola. Proposed septic system upgrade, DP number 433370. Representatives Marsh Matters Environmental.
Good evening, Chairman Cook, members of the commission. My name is Mike Ball. I'm a wetland scientist, Marsh Matters Environmental. I'm here tonight representing the property owner, Vito Miola of Value Construction LLC at 37 Riverside Road. He has a single-family house on the property with a failed septic system. I'm working with Pete McEntee of Engineering Works, who's on the meeting remotely. He's designed an IA system to replace the existing system, which is a cesspool, which was probably installed when the house was built back in 1970. If you're familiar with this part of Mashpee, this is one of those very long linear properties. This one abuts Little River. Little River connects Hamlin Pond to Wacoit Bay. It is not a river with respect to the riverfront area, so we're not dealing with that resource area. This is a coastal flood zone only property with a buffer zone, buffer zone to salt marsh associated with the river. So all the work is going to be on the road side of the house, except for the mitigation areas, which are between the house and the salt marsh. The plans show a work area of 565 square feet. And it most importantly shows that the proposed soil absorption system is outside the flood zone. They've placed that, Pete's placed that up by the road to get it out of the flood zone. So really the only work in the flood zone are the new components for the IA system and the work associated with the installation there. Because there is 565 square feet, there needs to be mitigation to revegetate portions of the site, and so the plan shows two areas between the house and the river. One 611 square feet, the other 637 square feet, and those are currently all open areas, and they will be revegetated with native sweet pepper bush. Let's see. According to the nitrogen loading calcs, which were submitted following the submittal of the NOI, the load's going to be 6.7 parts per million of nitrogen. I know you often ask for that. That's all I've got as a summary. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thanks, Mike. Okay, go Commissioners. Neil?
I don't have anything on this.
Okay, Shauna?
I don't have anything on this.
Sandy?
No, I just noted that it's a two-bedroom currently, and they're going with a three-bedroom on the septic.
I mean, that's typical to oversize it, so that's what the...
Can I speak to that?
Yeah, Pete, please.
Yes, the Board of Health went down there and did an inspection and determined there would be 4 rooms that qualify as bedrooms in the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the current owner, had seen the same thing and was saying, wait a minute, this is really 4 bedrooms. So it was not categorized correctly and has been updated.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Rich?
No, pretty straightforward.
Okay, Sarah?
Yes, good evening. I wanted to confirm the status of the application with the Board of Health. It sounds like they've already been out there and...
They're aware, there's no contractor selected at this time, but I've been in discussion with Zach Seabury and of course Sandra Pacheco was down there when we did the soil evaluation. They're all familiar with the property. So
Okay, thank you. And we are, proposing to replace a failed cesspool on a waterfront property with a denitrifying system, so that's obviously what we want to see. I did see that we're removing 4 trees. I wonder if we could replace those?
I can speak for Dan. Dan Kent went down there and identified several trees that were in need of removal, so maybe Dan could speak to that.
Yeah, the homeowner called me out originally just to talk about the septic, to what permitting levels he had, and he had concerns for trees. The one that's in the middle of the driveway, well, first off, all the trees are very, very poor health. The one in the middle of the driveway has more nails in it than I've ever seen in my life. And you can tell the stress from the tree because it is a large tree, but it is failed health completely, and it's aiming right at the house, unfortunately. And then the 2 right next to the shed, the base of the trees have, I'd say, 4 inches to 6 inches taken out the bottom trunk. Historically, it was not new at all. It must have been before this gentleman owned the house, and those trees are failing currently. And that was the reason for those removals to be permitted. With that, I have talked to the homeowner about replanting some stuff on property, which we are still organizing through, but he wanted to make sure he had approval for the notice of intent before he went through with deciding on where to replant or what to replant. So he will be putting stuff in for those trees. It was just predicated on approval tonight. That's all.
Understood. Thank you very much. And I think the only other thing that I would have, gentlemen, is that I know that we have positioned the septic system to be outside of the flood zone by just as much as possible on this lot, which is wonderful. I wonder if we would consider anchoring the components of the septic system, just given the proximity to the water in the flood zone. We've made similar requests for other waterfront projects. So that would be my only question.
Okay, I don't think it's necessary. The tank, we've got an uplift pressure of 8,000 pounds against 28,000 pounds downward. And that's with an empty tank, no frictional forces or cyclone forces taken into consideration. If you, well, the tank, 1,500 gallon tank, and the residual water in the pump chamber is going to be adding about another 13,000 pounds. So I'm extremely confident that those don't need to be anchored. The house will be down the river before those things go out of the ground if there's any type of flood situation.
Right. Well, we'll be sure to call you if that's not the case.
By all means.
Okay. Over to you.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. I have no questions. Okay. Do we have a motion for 37 Riverside Road?
Make a motion, close an issue at 37 Riverside Road.
And there's a condition that is recommended?
Are we talking about the trees or?
Nope, the one you're monitoring.
Oh, the 1 year, okay, 1 year monitoring plan.
Okay. Motion made. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made, second. Roll call vote. Shauna?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Sarah? No, but did you say Sarah?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I was muted.
All right,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, next item, COC 27 Aunt Jane's RRK Realty Holdings LLC requests a certificate of compliance for DP number 432832, represented BSS Design. Inspection has passed.
Yep, I went out there to the site. They had one area with the mitigation plantings. This project was approved, I want to say 2019, something like that. And they had one spot, the mitigation plantings, that the property owner brought up to Drew some time back. And to offset that, basically, just because there was some plants that weren't survived, they converted, oh gosh, I can't even remember how much of the lawn, a lot of the lawn into wildflower seeds. So when I was out there, the seeds have already taken place, so it was all Rudbeckia is just popping up, and it's gonna be fantastic, even better next season. So that was it for that, but other than that, everything was built to exactly to what the plan said, and they're as-built, so, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, do we have a motion to approve the COC for 27 Aunt Jane's?
So moved.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made second. Roll call vote. Shauna?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, next COC is 252 Shore Drive, Concert, New Seabury. Request for certificate of compliance for DP number 432896, represented BSC Group. Inspection passed, but I think Hannah said that was never built.
They never did anything on the project. No, anything, not even pre-construction. So that was just not done. So the project passed because no work has been conducted.
So paperwork.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, do you have a motion for COC for 252 Shore Drive?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, motion made second. Roll call vote. Shauna?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Sarah?
Steve, can I just ask a quick question?
Yep.
So is the certificate going to note that there was no work per the order of conditions that was done or is being certified?
Yes, the inspection form notes on the comments that that no work was done, and the COC itself, the official form to the state will say there was no work ever conducted.
Okay, great, then my vote is yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, thank you. All right, going back, we have approval of draft minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes. Has everybody read the minutes?
With our new minutes person, too.
She's very deep.
Regina,
Yes.
yeah.
They're wonderful minutes.
They are.
Okay. All right, so we have minutes from August 28th. Voted on it is myself, Sarah, well, Paul's not here, Sandy, Rich, and I had mentioned Sean and Neil, but you guys didn't vote on it. You were here, but you didn't vote on it.
Correct.
Right. So we have 1, 2, 3, we have 4 of us for quorum. Okay. Any changes, questions on August 28th?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, some Paul gave me so I could give to you too.
Okay.
Bravo, Paul.
Well, some of mine too. Under the board members present, next to my name, instead of member, it should be secretary.
Okay.
And let's see what else. Under approval of draft minutes for that meeting, on the first bullet point, Alex Zola's name is spelled wrong in 2 places. And under discussion, bullet number 2, subcommittee assignment, instead of CPA, it should be CPC. And under the discussions on tribal/Concom subcommittee, Paul's name should be included there. And under further discussion for Regulation 30C, in the first paragraph, Willow Bend says Willow Bends, it should be Willow Bend. And under the last paragraph, there's a mention, mentions heroic environment, and Paul was just questioning what that meant, if that was correct, or should be looked to see what that wording was.
Okay.
And further on in that discussion, MasTech is listed, and it should be MASSTC instead of MasTech. That's for Paul, I don't know.
Okay.
And on the last paragraph in that same discussion, it says the word years should be weeks. I don't know if that's clear, but I can give you these. And under the additional topics, Gunter's Lane, the COMCOM is spelled with 2 Ks. It should be Conservation Lands, not CONCOM.
Okay.
And in that same discussion, Selectman Whedon is mentioned. His name is spelled wrong. That's it.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept the minutes of August 28th with the changes noted? Okay, do we have a second?
Second?
Okay, roll call vote. Shauna?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay. Next minutes from September 4th, voted on as myself, Sarah, Sandy, and then Shauna and Neil, but I don't think you were voting on the 4th, no. We weren't. So we had three of us.
My first official day.
So, and Paul's name, but Paul's not here, so.
She can still vote on that, can't she? If you need her to.
Yeah, because
Yes,
associates have
she was
voted on
present.
minutes.
She was present? Okay, okay. Thank you, Neil.
Good job.
All right, so we have any changes?
You're like Mr. Roberts Rules of Order.
All right, do we have any?
Yeah, a couple.
Just-
Once again, under the board members, my name should have secretary instead of member. And on the meeting adjournment, it said 12:42 a.m. I think it was 11:07. I don't think we were here till 1:45. It may have seemed like that, but
I might have been.
11:07, I believe, is correct.
it was 11:07. I had written it down, right. And that's it.
Paul said I set the record for the longest meeting.
Yeah.
He said that, yeah.
Yeah, he did. Okay,
Might
that's
be
it?
The
on
record for the most things on that agenda, though.
Yeah. That's it, Sandy?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the minutes for September 4th with the changes noted.
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Voting on it, okay, it'd be Shauna?
Yes.
Okay, Sandy?
Yes.
Wait a minute, Rich, you weren't on that, so I don't know if you can,
Oh,
Second it.
no, you have to redo the motion.
okay, redo the motion, just sorry, I just noticed that.
I didn't catch that.
Getting late, okay, so we need a motion to accept the minutes of September 4th,
Motion to accept the minutes of September 4th
with the changes noted, right?
with the changes noted.
Okay,
Second.
second, Shauna, second, okay. Now we're gonna roll, okay. Shauna?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
And I vote yes, okay. Okay, next minutes from September 18th, voted on as myself, Paul's not here, Sandy, Rich, Shauna, and Neil. Okay. Do you have any changes on the 18th?
Same thing with my name with secretary listed. And under the hearings, 19 Cricket Way, under the order of conditions, we need to add the condition extra hay bales on the south side of property. I think that wasn't listed
it?
there.
Okay.
And, oh, no, I'm sorry. Take it out of the order of conditions. It was, I don't really, how do we want to word this? We had a discussion after we did the conditions, so I don't know if we want to list it as a discussion, but I think we finally finalized it that should be made a condition. So I don't know if somebody can look at the
Oh, so like
transcript
it was like a
again.
deliberation.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Under the discussion items, under the associate member to full-time, fourth bullet, Shauna mentioned she is going to attend the MACC fall meeting and it says in Denver, but it's actually Devon's.
Devers, yes. I wish it was Denver.
I know. I would have gone to that.
Missed that one.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it, okay.
That was probably autocorrect.
Do we have a motion to accept the minutes of September 18th with the changes noted?
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made second. Voted on, Shauna?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Sarah wasn't on that one, so. Okay, discussion, water quality, submittal requirements update. Do we want to just push?
Nope, I was gonna push that to the quarterly.
Okay,
I have stuff drafted, I just haven't finalized it yet.
okay. And then under updates, anything, or should we just push all that to quarterly?
Right now, under updates, no. We had some rain, so there's some decent water. We'll see how long it stays. But other than that, no, I'm not currently.
Okay. Great. Excellent. Thank you, Dan.
I had a question, well, for the bylaw review subcommittee. At one of our meetings, I can't remember which one that was, I think it might have been in September. I think that Drew was going to go back and check with the town manager to see how many members, we had that discussion about whether,
Yeah, it is the, it's this, say it all the time, it's the discretion of the commission. on how they would want to organize that.
Okay.
So we can
On
add that to the discussion list for the end of the month if you'd like. October 23rd, or we can put it on the quarterly.
Let's do it on the quarterly, because
Quarterly,
the 23rd
okay.
looks like it's going to be hefty again.
23rd, we do already have some hearings, and I already have more coming in, I've been told. So I'll have that added to the quarterly, and then you can discuss how that works. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
no problem.
Okay, anything else from commissioners? No, seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
No, we need a
We didn't
motion
have a
first.
motion.
Oh, jeez.
No, it is that late. It is that late.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second,
Okay, motion made, okay, roll call vote. Shawna?
Yes.
Sandy?
yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Okay, and I vote yes. All right, good evening. Bye, Sarah.